I will call the Lewiston Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for our regular meeting for January 28th to order. So item 1 was our call to order. Item 2 is citizens' comments. So this is an opportunity for citizens to address the commission with comments and or questions about Planning and Zoning Commission related matters that are not related to a public hearing we have on the agenda tonight. So are there any general public comments? No. All right. Anything email, called, phoned in?
Not general, no.
All right, perfect. Well, that takes care of item number 2. So item number 3, this will move us into our active agenda. So commissioners, first we have approval of our January 14, 2026 meeting minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look those over? I thought they looked spectacular. So with that, I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None are opposed? All right. Motion carries. So item B on our agenda is approval of the reasoned statement of relevant criteria and standards for conditional use permit application CUP 25-6 by Charlene Rickard of Ability Interventions LLC. So did everybody get a chance to look over that reasoned statement? Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? No? Well, with that, I will take a motion.
I will move
To approve as.
as written.
Perfect. I will second that motion. So it has been moved and seconded to approve as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. All right, motion carries. So item C is one of the public hearings we have on the agenda tonight. So this is a public hearing and subsequent deliberation and direction to staff regarding the reason statement for conditional use permit application CUP 26-1 by Leslie Doty. So before we go ahead and get started with the public hearing, before I open it, I will just explain the public hearing process really quickly. So I've announced the subject of the public hearing. I'll explain the public hearing process. We do ask commenters to limit their comment times to 3 minutes. I won't be religious about holding you to that, but if you go a little bit longer than that, I will let you know of that time limit. So I'll open the public hearing. We'll hear a staff presentation. After that, we will hear testimony from the applicant. Then after that, there's an opportunity for testimony from the public. If there is any testimony that the applicant feels they need to respond to, there will be an opportunity for the applicant to rebut, add to any comments that have been made by the public, and then commissioners can ask questions throughout the process. Any last minute questions the commissioners can ask, and then I will close the public hearing. After I close the public hearing, there can't be any more questions asked of staff while we deliberate the relevant criteria and standards and articulate our reasons for our proposed decision. So with that, I will go ahead and open the public hearing, and then we will hear from staff on the staff presentation.
Now, do you want to change the camera?
Thank you. Okay, good evening, Commission. Katie Hollingshead, Assistant Planner. Tonight I am presenting Conditional Use Permit 26-1. This is a request for animal rights in our R2A residential zone with a request for a waiver to the half-an-acre livestock area standard. So like usual, we're going to look at some maps and some photos. So our subject property is located at 727 Burl Avenue. It is a 0.41 acre parcel. It contains a single-family dwelling. Surrounding properties are also mostly single-family dwellings with smaller sized lots on the west side over here along 7th Street E and larger lots on the north and east sides of the property. As part of the conditional use permit application, the applicant is also asking for a waiver from standard of 13,911 square feet from the half acre standard, which is 21,780 square feet. The applicant has a livestock area of 7,869 square feet, and so that's this area on the map. Too many. There we go. Okay, so our subject property is located in our R2A low-density residential zone, which does allow animal rights, that's the A. Through the conditional use permit process, none of the properties immediately adjacent to the property have animal rights or have gone through this process asking for animal rights. Although two of the neighboring properties, this property right here at 731 and this property back here at 3428 8th Street are both large enough to meet that half-acre pasture area. There is record of one property to the west, about a half a block down at 714 Burrell Ave, who did go through the conditional use permit process back in 2015 to put an animal on that property. And then same map just from our comprehensive future land use map. So the yellow is that neighborhood residential zone, and the red is community commercial. So our subject property is located in that neighborhood residential designation of our future, of the comprehensive plan future land use map, which is one of our low density residential place types. From our comprehensive plan, LU.1.3 states that a balance of land uses and establishing land use patterns that accommodate various land uses in proportion to the needs of the community is a goal in this particular area. We've seen this with other animal rights requests, balancing that residential neighborhood with the kind of more suburban feel of having livestock on property. And then looking at some photos, so single family dwelling is what currently is on the property. You can see it's one, from the map you can see that it's one house in from the corner. So this house, this large shop is on the corner and they're one in. This is looking west along Burrell Avenue. So again, this is that shop property. They have a lot of tall arborvitaes that border the street. There is a sidewalk that runs in front of the house. It is pretty close to Centennial Elementary School. Not working for me today. Okay, and then looking east along Burrell, again, you can see single family dwellings going this way, that sidewalk that goes down, Centennial Elementary is down here. Looking south across Burrell, more single family dwellings. Okay, so these are in the backyard. So this is part of the proposed pasture area. The applicant is installing corral fencing, which you can see here, and removing a tree, which you can see here, that fell during the December windstorm. You can also see there's some fence damage from that tree going across this way. And there were some other damaged panels that she's kind of repairing and moving around, but she'll talk more about that when she gets up. So you can see the damage in the chain link fence that goes between her property at 727 and the neighboring property at 731. The applicant is requesting conditional use permit approval for animal rights so she may keep a single horse on the property for her granddaughter to train with as part of the 4-H program. As noted in our staff report and in city code, 4-H animals are exempt from the CUP process per section 37-195. But the applicant is requesting approval because of the smaller pasture area and the longer lifespan of a horse. So normally 4-H animals, are raised for a season and are then sold after they're shown at a fair or event. A horse, of course, is not an animal that gets sold. So they participate in the program for much longer. So with that in mind, she's in front of this body asking for.
So question on that. So if it's being claimed as a 4-H animal and that exempts it from the CUP process, does that make essentially the CUP moot then? Or is there a separate process that you have to go through to claim an animal as 4-H?
You would just have to tell us that the animal was 4-H, and that's kind of it. Code does call out that if there are complaints about an animal, even if it is in a 4-H program, then there are remedies for that, up to and including the removal of the animal from property.
Okay.
But like I said, this applicant is kind of wanting to make sure everything is copacetic. She understands that she is a smaller area. She understands that the animal will have a longer lifespan than like a sheep or a goat or a cow that you might sell after showing at a fair.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick? Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. I would note that it wouldn't be moot because the exception in Lewiston City Code 37-195 only exempts the provisions related to Article 9. It does not relate to the use of the property, only as far as the allowances, the prohibitions, limitations, and standards. So the number, type of animals, the size of the lot, or the pasture area, the livestock area, and things that are only covered within that subsection of Chapter 37, not whether or not they can actually keep animals. Because that's going to be based on different articles within Chapter 37, not within the specific article relating to animal rights, livestock, and pasture standards.
Okay, and then another photo of pasture area. Like I said, she does have some damage from that storm. I was out there maybe 3 weeks after it, very beginning of January, to take these photos. So as part of this application, we were looking at a waiver of standards that's being requested. So like I said, she has an approximate area of 7,869 square feet that the horse would use when at the subject property. The applicant has stated in her application that the horse would not reside permanently or full-time at the property. It would split its time between this property where it would train and work with the granddaughter for the 4-H purpose, and another property that is outside of city limits where it would be boarded with other horses. Then I would also like to call to the commission's attention, so as noted in the staff report, conditional use permits run with the land. So given the request that is in front of you, it may be worth discussing whether or not you want to have a condition on this particular application for it not to run with the land and have an end date that maybe ends with this particular applicant. I think there are a number of factors that you could say, yeah, this works for this person, but since conditional use permits are recorded against the property and then don't really have an expiration date otherwise, might be worth discussing when you're going through those criteria that you limit it for this particular property to this particular owner. That. Okay, and with that, I would stand for questions.
As of right now, with the stated 4-H use and purpose of the animal, and assuming that it's in compliance with the humane keeping, can the horse be there without the approved CUP at this stage, as long as it's involved with the 4-H program and kept in a way that complies with the code? Like, is it allowed to be there because of those or due to those exemptions?
So typically when it comes down to the animals and the 4-H, first, when an individual is brought to the attention of the city of having a prohibited animal, we require proof of 4-H membership. Usually they've received a citation at that point, and then we require 4-H membership. And to my knowledge, no information related to 4-H membership has been provided. Also, we require typically a statement that that specific animal is related to a 4-H or other project. I just note that city code isn't exclusive to 4-H, it's 4-H-like programs as well. And the exemption doesn't necessarily apply to the use of the property for animals. Where animals are permitted by right, then that's not usually a concern. But again, it doesn't necessarily affect other standards, so to the extent that the applicant has applied for a conditional use permit, I wouldn't look at the exception to the rule here because it falls outside of that exception at that point. Under Lewiston City Code 37-199, it kind of sets forth the provision, so, and it's specific to the keeping of livestock, not explicitly governed, and conditioning the use of a property. Information related to the use of the property, again, like I mentioned, isn't within the livestock provisions of that specific article, which is Article 15 and not 9, for a correction there, but I would look at these as two separate things. So the mere fact that she has applied for a conditional use permit would put her outside the scope of that exemption at this point.
Okay. Katie, the other question I had is, to your knowledge or in your review, have prior approvals been made for similarly sized lots? Have we seen applications for a conditional use permit in the past where there was a significantly smaller lot?
Maybe not of this reduction in size. The last animal rights request that did come in front of the commission did also have a waiver of standard. And that one was approved. It was a different situation, but again, sort of similar where the animals were not intended to be there long-term and would be kind of on and off and on and off. I did not pull the full file for the property at 714 Burrell to see what exactly had been approved at that one. I could just see that it was in the list for an animal rights request.
A previous application. Thank you.
Did you want specific information about the very last one? I can retrieve it real quick for you.
I almost looked it up just to see the
Yeah,
size of the
I wanted to do it in
Well, you
today's
can't look it
hearing.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys
So
can't look it up, but I can look it up for you.
that's what I was afraid of.
And present information to
We can
you.
look it up today, right? Just not before today. That would be great. I'm just curious, so with the kind of going in line with the use of the area, it's interesting or useful, I think, to know where horses are being kept in this area and whether those other properties have had similar animals. So, and obviously there could be a variety of factors that are applying there, but if it's a few blocks away, it seems relevant.
So the one that we're referring to is CUP 25-5, and the applicants for that one were Anthony and Nicole Havens. And in that particular application, the city or the Planning and Zoning Commission conditionally approved CUP 25-5, including the associated waiver of 7,445 square feet from the required 21,780 square feet livestock area. And in that case, they were going to be keeping several goats at that particular property. So the property, it was probably about half the amount that's being waived in this particular case. But it was another residential property, but that one abutted a nature preserve as well. And so one side of the property was a expansive nature preserve and the other was the neighborhood.
Excellent, okay.
Cindy, did you have?
Yeah, so I'm trying to math in my head, everybody, hold on. So I'm looking at, the applicant claims they have a 0.41 acre parcel, which per my math is approximately 17,859 square feet. And they're using or asking to utilize grazing pasture area, about not even 45% of their overall lot, which is math, almost, not quite 3,500 or 4,000 square feet below the bare minimum of livestock in the first place. And so the thing that I think I was hicking up on was the proximity to the buildings to the left for the horse in general.
Like this.
Yeah, like the ones that go right up against where the horse is gonna be. And in the pictures, it looks, I'm trying to think of what 7,100 square feet looks like. And I know my neighbor to the left of me has about 7,200 square feet in Normal Hill. And so I'm trying to envision the room for the horse.
So it's this.
Yeah, and it kind of, yeah. So can you answer?
So this tree is,
Right,
gone.
right, so it's just the leg of
Yeah, so it's a
where it narrows. So my question on the supporting letter that offered additional grazing, was it the one immediately to the
this
west?
neighbor
Okay,
that
okay.
submitted that letter.
Well, I would note too, we haven't introduced that testimony yet.
Oh, forgive me, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, I just wanted clarity on how much accommodation we were. Okay, that-
So, can I ask one more question, Jen, about CUP, the prior CUP that was approved? Were the goats on that property full-time?
No,
Okay.
from what was testified at that particular one, it wasn't gonna be full-time, but then they didn't wanna have a specific seasonal limitation, because they couldn't guarantee
Okay.
how much time it would be.
Okay.
So there was no seasonal limitation on that one. But again, they weren't in the middle of a neighborhood because they had the large preserve.
Right, okay.
And that property actually had a long history of having animals at that area. And I don't believe that there was any opposition received either.
Okay.
And I can just double check, but I'm fairly certain we did not receive any opposition.
Okay.
We didn't.
Yes. There was no public comment in opposition to that application.
Jay, did you have any questions?
I guess the only thing I was thinking of in regards to section 37-198, the maintenance standards, I guess, just to clarify for me, like, requires like a drainage area, and fencing, which you kind of showed in your report, but what would that drainage area look like? I guess is just a designated space for.
That sounds like a great question for the applicant who has not yet testified.
Jumped in the gun.
You're in trouble too. So, okay.
Okay, are we currently done with me? And I can have
I
our
believe so.
applicant come up.
All right, thank you, Katie. All right, with that, we will hear from the applicant. And you can just say your name and city of residence. You don't have to give us your exact address.
Leslie Doty, sub 77 Burl Avenue.
Can you please speak up? We have to record this.
I had never had intended to bring him to my house full-time, but with the respiratory virus that was going around and the fact that he needs to be gelded, I brought him to my house first to quarantine him, and then he'll go out to Cougar Ridge. But I want to be able to, being as that he is a baby, he's only 8 months old, he's never been in town, so I wanted to bring him in and have him in a small area where I could handle him, get him to pick up his feet, put on a halter and all that, and I wasn't ready to have him. I started talking to the lady on Wednesday, and on Friday she delivered him, and I had planned on looking at him like 3 weeks out, so I kind of had to speed the process along, so I want him to have different experiences, so he, being in town, you know, he would have the dogs, the cars, and everything, and I want him to be accessible at different points in training where my granddaughter, she's not quite old enough for 4-H yet, but I want her to be involved so that she can do 4-H with him going forward. That's why I wanted to go ahead and do this as opposed to just saying he was for 4-H, because that's not, it's a going forward, so. And the fence, I know one of the neighbors wrote a letter about the fence not being nailed down. Well, being as that he is a baby, he ran right into the fence and the fence didn't move. But when I'm done with the fence, I will nail it down. What's
I'm
that?
sorry to interrupt, the panels, you're
Yes.
speaking of the panels, okay.
Yes. And I still have to haul off some tree, and my son has a vehicle that he's cutting up and scrapping, and so there's some other things on the property, but like I said, he was there, like, I told her one day I wanted to look at him, and the next day she delivered him, so.
Do you kind of have an idea, and if you don't, that's fine, but do you kind of have an idea of how often he would be on your property versus out, I think you said at Cougar Ridge?
He may spend a weekend here, a weekend there, but mostly he will be out there. But she also has a young one that she's training too, so it'll be a matter of wanting to get him confined and training him.
Back to the question I had, so in regards to section 37-198, in regards to drainage, it just states having a positive drainage shall be maintained for livestock, just to prevent property, etc. Do you have kind of a plan for that, or do you see that as being?
I've not ever had a drainage issue. I know my neighbors have, but the ones and their water and stuff, I guess I don't know what you're asking.
So it's just it's an area that just helps mitigate from drainage seeping. So like from the manure and stuff from seeping into neighboring properties. So just kind of keeping it confined instead of seeping out.
At this point, I have, one of the guys at work is making me a scooper to make it easier, but at this point, I've just been shoveling it and hauling it out to Eco. But I'm not home in the daytime except for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so it's just been a weekend thing.
So since the horse has been there for a while now, it's been there full-time since it was dropped off unexpectedly and you're still working? Okay. When would you anticipate a horse being primarily out in Cougar Ridge?
I'm hoping in 2 weeks. I need to get him an appointment to get him healthy, so.
And the plan would be is after that, the horse would spend fairly brief periods of time at your house? Okay. Would you anticipate the horse being there during the week, or would it primarily be when you were around?
It would pretty much be when I'm around. I mean, it might be some during the week, but mostly it would be, if they're a herd animal, I want him to have friends, I want him to have room to run, and sometimes, he has to learn how to horse.
Sure, absolutely.
So, the pictures are hard. We haven't stood the space. I can compare the pasture area that, in comparison to the house that's right next to me, right? So I've got the scale of the area for him. How close is it to, like, you've addressed dogs, right? You've addressed dog noises, and now keep mentioning he's a baby, so I'm having just a moment, actually. And I wonder how close in proximity to any other animals would he be? He doesn't have a lot of room to retreat if he's being harassed, or, like, it's a very small area you're putting him in, so.
There's 3 dogs to the one side. And then there's another one that, the 3 right next to him, they don't hardly even bark or anything. He doesn't pay him any attention. The one behind runs up and barks at him, and he's curious, so he goes back there and it jumps up at him and he doesn't.
I guess I was more.
He's contained.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't know if those, I mean, like, it's a small enough area that if he had to get away, if something could get into the area where you're keeping him, he doesn't have a lot of room to go anywhere.
Well, I have chain link fence all the way around my
Okay, thank
property
you.
except for across the front,
Yeah. Okay.
as well as the panels.
Yeah, so maybe it's irrelevant to this, that I'm just thinking of harassment from outside influences coming into this contained area. So I'm just kind of more thinking about him, and that's maybe not relevant to this, except the lot size is catching me a little hinky, but, thank you.
Since you've been in the neighborhood, where's the nearest horses to you? Have you?
There's one on Cedar, 8th and Cedar. There's some down on 6th and Burl. And I believe there's one in 7th and Burl on the other side of the street. They're close enough when he whinnies, sometimes they answer, so.
Okay, so they can hear
And
him.
my friend lives on Cedar, so I'm over on Cedar all the time, so
Sure.
I've seen those over there.
Absolutely. Fairly close. And then the livestock area or the pasture area that you've presented, is that pretty well the largest area you could dedicate to that? It's a little hard to see from the pictures, but is it?
It's, I want to say 150 some feet. And then by something, I have the measurements in my car, but it's a pretty big area.
Sure. And that's
And
most
it will get bigger as, my
Yeah, you were
son
right.
calls this shipped off and.
Sure, okay.
It was included in the
Yeah.
application too, that you can see
And
that.
it's mostly that kind of the little stepped lot, and then as of right now, it can't be expanded much, but it may be in the future.
Yes, and the neighbors to the east have told me repeatedly that he can go back there. I politely declined because their fence is not adequate on
Sure.
2 sides, but
But necessity, I mean, in loose panels,
yeah,
it's always an option.
yes.
Thank you. You envision if, I don't know, worst case scenario, he grows up and is no longer interested, would you see yourself continuing with another colt and another granddaughter adventure? Like, is this gonna be something where there's always gonna be a horse in your plans, do you imagine?
I figure that him and I will be old and dead about the same time.
Well, put that off, you know.
Fine.
Okay.
We got 20 years, we'll be done. So.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
But I completely spaced it. So, you had mentioned that, and I apologize, I don't remember where you said you took it, but you had mentioned that you basically clean up his waste.
Out to,
Yeah, how often do you do that?
at this point, I've only hauled off twice, I think. So,
Okay.
but like I said, I'm at work by 5 in the morning, and I don't get home till 5 in the evening, so it's dark.
Okay.
So I'm with, like, I wasn't planning on having him there yet, so Christmas, New Year's, trip's already planned, but now I should be home. Hopefully it'll get light out soon. That, and he needs to go have friends, so.
Commissioners, any other questions at the moment? Well then, with that, thank you. We'll take public testimony now. So like I said, we'll try to limit it to 3 minutes per testimony. I will give a little bit of grace on that, but I might give you the stink eye if you go a little bit further than that. So when you come up, just say your name, your city of residence, and then provide feedback.
My name is Chris Wright. I live at 3437 7th Street E, right up against Ms. Doty's property. I probably won't read you my,
Can I get your name again?
Chris Wright.
Thank you.
I probably won't reread unless you've already got my email. Okay, so you have all that. So basically in that, my concern is I'm 40 feet, maybe less, from the horse, from our back patio. I'm 20 feet from when I measured the back of my home, where my patio is, to her fence line. Already, the smell is pretty bad. I get she's got the horse under duress or something. Our concern is having it there, the smell, and how long this is gonna be. Apparently, and I can't speak for my neighbors, maybe I can't. Code enforcement was notified on the 15th when the horse arrived on the 12th. So then the permit was submitted on the 5th of January, 3 weeks after the violation had already been made on the horse being on the property, which violates the city code on the size and having animal rights. So basically, that's our concern, is having livestock there in a small area, and the smell and the flies that we're getting has been kind of pretty bad. So, but I get she's in a situation maybe where she got the horse under, but still, we don't want it there, and we bought a city residential property, and you can tell when you look at the pictures where that shop is. That's my property right up against her fence line.
You mentioned that kind of during the warmer December, the smell was a real problem. Has it gotten any better?
No,
in that period?
no. And I go out and do yard work a lot. I'm kind of, I guess, bored a lot, so I spend a lot of time doing a lot of yard work. As you can tell, the arborvitaes, the trees, everything, it keeps me pretty busy. I mean, I mowed my lawn 2 weeks ago, so that tells you.
For sure.
But it has been warm.
How quickly after the horse was there did you start noticing the smell or start being concerned by it?
Probably about a week, maybe. I mean, it wasn't right away, obviously, because the weather's, been kind of.
Sure.
We've been in such a cold snap that
Sure, it's hard, yeah.
fragrance doesn't travel quite.
Yeah.
Have you spoken directly with the applicant?
No.
About your, okay.
No, I have not.
May I ask how long you've owned your property?
22 years?
Oh.
Yeah.
A bit in a day, yeah, okay.
One of the longest ones in the neighborhood. There's a few that have been there like 40, but we have a lot of elderly in our, I'm the bottom left, right up where where you said the shop, the arborvitae you're
Right
talking
in
about?
here?
Yeah, I'm on the corner of Burl and 7th
Oh, you
Street.
are the corner, okay,
Yeah, so I'm
gotcha.
that flag lot right next to her.
Okay, oh, gotcha, okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, right.
In the time you've lived there, the 22 years, have there been any kind of large livestock animals on any of those parcels?
No,
Not that you've seen?
no.
Aside from the smell, have you, and fear of warmer and weather and flies, I mean, have you had any additional issues with the horse being there? Like, is having the horse present, is it noise, is it like?
Well, my daughter's not here, but she's been getting woke up in the middle of the night from something kicking the fence. I'm assuming it's the horse, because the neighbor's dogs bark at it a lot, and I think it's because they're not used to it. He was supposed to be here, but he unfortunately couldn't make it. He apparently called also code enforcement when they complained, which you may know that, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle Fickenworth, Lewiston, Idaho, just across the street from Chris there. And testimony in opposition. In my opinion, it's just a little too small of a space. I am concerned about the smell and the flies. My parents live in an area where there's not typically livestock, but then sometimes the McCanns will run their cows nearby and it stinks. So I'm not looking forward to the warmer months and when the wind's blowing in my direction from their property. It also sounds like they have other plans to house it somewhere else, and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask someone to drive out to Cougar Ridge to go see their animal. I guess I don't see the benefit of having it in their backyard when they can keep it so close. Additionally, there's no guarantees of how clean they'll keep it. There's no guarantees of really anything as far as them keeping the animal there, how often it'll be there. I would be much more in favor of something that said they could have it there for a month or two and then it was gone instead of on and off in perpetuity. Because I want them to be able to take care of their animal. While it's young, that's fine. Something temporary is fine, but something in perpetuity, I'm concerned about. And that's all I've got.
So can I ask, did you know that the applicant was, did you know before the meeting tonight, did you know that the applicant was going to have the animal at some point in the future at Cougar Ridge and then at the house?
I didn't know. I just knew that the animal had been there since sometime in
Okay.
December.
Okay.
Is tonight in this application the first you're hearing about the plans to just bring it in for a few days and take it back out, or had you spoken to the applicant yourself?
No, I
No?
haven't heard. Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing about any of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Sander, Lewiston. I'm on the east corner of that lot. And I'm also concerned about the smell too, because the neighbor 2 houses down from me has a food cart. And he barbecues in the back. You know, being Lewiston, it's getting really hot during the summer times. Get that whiff of the horse poo and the barbecue is kind of a turnoff. And I don't want that in my mind because he's got real good food. And being that I worked on a farm for a little over 25 years, and I know what horses get spooked. There's a lot of dogs in the neighborhood are running loose. And I've seen horses go right through barbed wire, those big metal fence gates, and they'll just run. And I'm afraid that the horse will get out in the road and get killed. Plus, that area is just way too small. I've lived there for 39 years, and I've not seen any animals in the back because it was a big flag lot. This is the first time I ever heard of this. And, I'm all for 4-H. It shows great discipline in the kids and stuff. And I just hate to see this horse be brought up in such a little area.
Kids, hey, Doug Lodge, I live at 3429 7th Street E. It would be like northwest of her pasture, my backyard. You got them? Okay. I got no problem with what's going on. If she said that she'll take it out.
How long have you lived where you live?
20 years.
20 years. You've obviously engaged with the applicant and trust her word and
Oh, yeah.
know her as a human being.
And see, we got, in the neighborhood there, we got chickens, dogs, horses, horse. So it's not a big thing. And it's been so cold that there's no smell.
And did you know that the applicant's plan, I mean, you've spoken to the applicant obviously before this meeting. Did you know that the applicant was planning on having the animal be at Cougar Ridge for part of the time in the future and then part of the time at this property?
Actually, the way I understood it was that it was just here conditionally and then it was going to Cougar Ridge and not come back. That's what I got out of it. And even if it comes back for a week, she takes care of it. She takes really good care of it, so I have no problem. Anything? Thanks.
I'm Taylor Lodge. I live with my dad on 3429 7th Street E. Yeah, the horse is amazing. My kids love it. We have a trampoline right by the fence, right by the horse where we jump at quite a bit. And that horse has never spooked, never did anything. The smell, it's non-existent because it's wintertime, but I haven't smelt it. It's just there. My kids love it.
Are they, when you say they love it, are they interacting with it through
No,
the fence? No,
no.
just through the fence?
Yeah,
just yapping
they
at it.
stare at it all the time because my mom had horses and I was raised with horses too, so they love horses, so they'll just go out on the deck and watch the horse, watch her interact with the horse too.
So when you say 7th, and I'm trying to get,
Street E.
it's one of these,
It should be right.
if this is the property?
7th Street E, there's a property, it should be right there.
Okay, that's what I said, so it's the,
Maybe one back. That's corner house, it's right here.
yeah, okay, thank you. So you are literally abutting
Yeah.
where the panels are in the narrowest part of her lot. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yep. Additional testimony? I mean, it doesn't
She
have.
can.
Oh, yeah, well, I was just, if there was any
Yeah.
additional testimony. And then, Dawn, did you want to double check with us before I bring the applicant back in to make sure that we had read our emails?
So you were provided 4 public comments. 1 was in the packet and then 3 came by email. So I just want to confirm that.
I did not have the opportunity. And I was trying to log in so I could scan them. I apologize.
No, you're fine. Jennifer, do I have to read the one from Chris since he's
The gentleman that spoke.
Yeah, I'd still read it.
So read it. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You just want to hear my.
That's why I sit next to you.
Okay, January 22nd, 2026. I believe I'm gonna call her.
Is it the handwritten one?
The
Yeah.
handwritten one?
Do you want me to read it?
That's Leslie Doty,
Leslie Doty.
No, it's from the Kellys, 737 Borough Ave.
Yes, down here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's to Miss Doty. Okay. To whom it may concern, I'm reaching out to show our support for the use of her property to keep her horse. Miss Doty has been and continues to be a great neighbor. We have no issue or concerns about the matter. We consider her to be a valued homeowner in our neighborhood. Sincerely, the Kellys. I submit for consideration my testimony and request a denial of the conditional use permit for animal rights by Miss Doty. Large livestock, a horse. I am a direct neighbor of Miss Doty's lot with a shared property line and fence line. My name is Chris Wright, and my wife and daughter and I have lived at 3427 7th Street E, Liston, Idaho, for more than 22 years. I'm requesting the conditional use permit for animal rights and waiver of reduction of required livestock area requested by Leslie Doty of 727 Burl Ave to be denied as failed to meet city code requirements for minimum livestock area. Additionally, to be denied as a nuisance due to the personal effect on my family and property values as a nuisance of odor, and insects, flies. The smell of horse manure and urine was strong, and the flies started showing up shortly after the horse arrived during the warm December 2025 temperatures. I have noted minimum livestock area is 1.5 acre as defined our city code. Section 37-196 definitions. Livestock area means pasture, corrals, dry lots, feedlots, and other property, including buildings and structures, available to and used by the livestock. Ms. Doty's entire residence lot is listed as 0.41 acres, of which more than half of the 0.41 acre is dedicated to her home and covered carport structure along with front, side, and rear yards, none of which is livestock area defined by city code definition, which translates to 7,389 square feet, 0.18 acres, far less than our city code requirement of 0.5 acres, 21,780 square feet. Additionally, our city code, section 37-197, also addresses the required 1/2 acre livestock area. As a next-door neighbor of Ms. Doty, the accumulation of horse manure, odor, and flies are a valid concern. Ms. Doty's lot historically lacks regular cleanup and weed removal. It is doubtful the required cleanup chores are stated in our city code would also be done regularly. The horse's limited area adds to adverse effect by the natural body functions causing odor and insects, flies. This could also impact our property values, which our city code finds concerning, and other reasons why our city standards and requirements were put in place. Ms. Doty of 727 Burl Ave is requesting a conditional use permit after violating our city of Liston code and requirements as stated, waiving the significant difference between our city code requirements and the actual livestock area available of someone already violating our city code standards would get a concerning precedent. My wife, daughter, and I have lived in our home for over 22 years, choosing city life for raising my family and to not be subjected to large livestock and the odors and flies that accompany manure and urine in a concentrated area. This is occurring less than 50 feet from my barbecue grill and patio. My grandfather was a dairyman, my mother was a 4-H horse leader, both in North Idaho, and while I appreciate both, I do not want them out the back door of my home in the city. The odor of manure, urine, and company insects, flies should not be happening in a residential neighborhood of small lots. Being familiar with large livestock, the city requirement of 21,780 square feet, 0.5 acres, is reasonable. However, 7,869 square feet, 0.18 acres, is not reasonable. Many would find it animal cruelty for the horse to be confined in such a small area without adequate area of movement and exercise, standing in its own urine and manure. This is a separate concern. Thank you for considering of my family's concerns and request the conditional use permit be denied as a nuisance of odor, insects, diminishing property value concerns, and a clear violation of the reasonable standards of our city codes. Respectfully submitted, Chris G. Wright. All right, I have one more. Dear members of Conditional Use Permit Committee, I operate a licensed daycare at 3436 8th Street, and our backyard directly adjoins 731 Burl Ave. The neighboring property at 727 Burl Ave is where our horse is currently being kept. There is no fencing separating 727 and 731 along the portion that borders my yard, and our daycare play yard runs along this property line. I wish to state that I am not opposed to my neighbors having a horse. My concern is strictly regarding the safety and stability of the fencing along the property line that borders my daycare yard. Currently, the horse is contained by linked livestock panels with hot wire. It does not appear that any posts have been installed to properly stabilize the temporary paneling, which means the horse can push and shift the panels. If the panels were to move or give away, the horse would have direct access to my fence, which was not constructed to withstand such force. Standard horse fencing typically requires posts set in the ground approximately every 8 to 10 feet with panels attached to the posts to ensure the fencing cannot shift when a horse leans or pushes against it. I respectfully request that if the conditional use permit is approved, a condition be included requiring permanent properly anchored horse fencing to be installed along the 731 Burl Ave property line. This would prevent the horse from accessing my fence and ensure the continued safety of the children in my care. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Cammie Huntley. You need me to read the one from the packet? Okay. Those are all it.
Did you want to read the other one from Miss Huntley? I got one. I have 2 comments from her.
I don't think the first part's actually a comment, and just the second response to my email is the comment.
Still read all of it. So I can read it.
Okay.
I'm like, so looking at the chain, there were 2 messages that preceded this particular one. So the very first message the city received was, "Hi Katie, I worked with you last year to get my home on 8th Street, a CUP for childcare. My backyard directly adjoins the rear of the property at either 727 or 731 Burl Avenue. Over the past month and a half, I've noticed new panel fencing installed, and it appears a horse is now being kept in the back portion of that property. I have lived here for 13 years, and there has never been a horse or livestock there before. I recently installed new fencing for my daycare yard, and I'm concerned because I do not know if that fencing is adequate to safely contain a horse if it were to push against it. Because I previously went through the CUP process for my daycare, I'm familiar with the required neighbor notification and public hearing process. I did not receive any notice related to livestock or a CUP for this property if they needed it. Could you please let me know if there is an active CUP or livestock keeping approval on file for this address? Thank you very much for your time and assistance, Cammie Huntley." And that was Monday, January 26, 2026 at 1:45. Assistant Planner Katie Hollingshead replied, "Yes, there is a CUP application in process for animal rights at 727 Burl Avenue. I do see your name and address on the notice list that I prepared. I don't know why you wouldn't have received the notice, but one did get mailed to you. One did get mailed to your address. The public hearing for that application will be on Wednesday, January 28th at 5:30 if you want to attend and provide comment." And then that is when Ms. Huntley followed up with the message that Dawn read to the members of the CUP committee.
That email chain was, I recognize that those first 2 comments, they were on the chain
whole
that
thing
followed the public comment. So. All right, well, then we will allow the applicant to provide any additional thoughts if she would like.
I just would like to say that Chris is misrepresenting how close his house is to the pasture, because I measured it, and it's 65 foot from the corner of the panels to the fence post right at the edge of the little shed he has right back there, and then you can't even see his barbecue grill and patio from that point. So the other neighbors are much closer.
So it has been mentioned in some of the public comment that there are concerns about waste and smell, and I guess that's what my question was in regards to how often you pick it up and move it. So you've only gone to the offsite location twice to dump it off.
At this point.
Do you only pick it up on your property like once in a blue moon, or do you pick up and store it somewhere on your property?
I've picked it up and put it in cans, but like I said, I'm not home in the daytime.
Okay.
And I already had some other trips and things planned, so before I got him, so my son was there with him. But now I'm home until.
Okay. So if the animal is on your property occasionally now, and the animal would primarily be on the property when you're home,
Yes.
would you be willing to clean it up more? I guess I'm looking for a way
As
to
soon
kind
as I
of,
have daylight where I'm like home, like it's dark when I leave for work.
right,
It's dark when I get home. So I just, I guess I can get a headlamp and go out there and shovel shit in the dark, but I kind of thought that Friday, Saturday was, I mean, it's been cold.
right.
There hasn't even been any flies. I haven't seen fly one out in the pasture, so I would think if there was gonna be flies, they would be there. My take, so.
So you,
Concerned about shoveling in the dark because I thought I shoveled on the weekends was, and I hadn't planned on cutting up a 60-foot tree either, so that kind of cut into my time.
so you've had him for 4 weeks on the property?
I think I got him 12, so yes.
Okay.
Roughly.
And you have the gelding schedule, the surgery,
No,
whatever it is they
not
do?
yet.
Not
But
yet?
I just got a horse trailer this last weekend, so I can take him and
But your permanent boarding
is gonna be,
is gonna be Cougar Ridge.
Yes.
That's been arranged.
yes. As far as nailing the fence down, I have not nailed the fence down, but I've seen him run into it and that he hasn't even moved it at this point, so I was waiting until I had it, the tree gone. I need to do some compaction where the root ball pulled up for my tree and so it's not a permanent.
So for my geospatial awareness, the green, for lack of a better term, the green rail fencing is not the full limit of where the animal would be. That's a section of the 7,000
Yes.
square foot and change. Okay.
You've just got it reduced right now,
Yes.
while you're doing cleanup and mediation of the tree.
Well, and like I said, those panels are very expensive.
No, I gotcha.
I found out on Thursday afternoon she was delivering them on Friday morning, so I just ran out and bought panels. Every time they've gone on sale, I've gone and bought some more, so.
With the long-term goal of during his containment, you would have the full 7,000
Yes.
with the panels,
Yes.
livestock panels.
And he'll just be there little bits at a time is my intention, so.
I had a question, just for the applicant. In looking at the pictures, I just wanted to note that under Lewiston City Code, section 37-198C, related to forage, I just wanted to make sure that it was addressed whether or not there would be forage continually present on the area because in order to be considered pasture, it does have to continuously have forage present.
He has mowed it pretty well, but I water back there most of the time. So when he's out of cougar, it will grow.
Does that answer your question?
I just wanted to make sure it was addressed.
Is there a specific terminology that forage
Yeah,
is?
it's the Lewiston City Code, section 37-198C1 says forage shall be continually present on all areas of property considered to be pasture, unless the pasture is in the process of being replanted. The person owning the pasture shall be responsible for eliminating noxious weed growth. And so, I would highlight that the city does prosecute people for failure to maintain their pasture, primarily through fencing. If the animal breaks through fencing, they are required to fix it within a reasonable time. And we have also prosecuted under the forage and the manure disposal.
So I guess what I'm asking is, when we're talking forage, and maybe it's my ignorance, we're talking like grass.
Grazing.
Grazing,
Yeah,
thank you,
just
okay.
meandering around and munching.
Okay,
They're
okay,
gonna
thank
have
you.
something
That,
to munch.
that maybe is a dumb question, but I'm just
Otherwise,
asking.
at that point, it's not necessarily considered a pasture,
Okay,
and it may qualify as a dry lot or one of the other things
okay.
that is listed.
Would a dry lot designation require that alternate food be brought in like hay? Or does it fundamentally change the dynamic of,
Let me just double check the
Request.
definitions of that.
because this would absolutely, I would feel like that'd be a dry lot, I mean, very quickly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't disagree.
Let's see, dry lot means an area of property which no forage is present for feeding. Dry lot shall be at least 900 square feet with a minimum dimension of 10 feet. Dry lot shall not be partitioned into less than 900 square feet areas. Dry lots are a place of temporary containment for convalescing animals being worked, or animals given regular exercise on a different location of the property.
Is there a definition or a designation under there of like a turnout or something that would be considered a turnout? That'd be the other thing, I guess I would consider this if it were,
I don't have one for turnout. I have livestock area and then I have pasture. So livestock area means pasture, corrals, dry lots, feedlots, and other property, including building and structures available to and used by the livestock. And then pasture means an area of property whereon forage for the type of livestock is being grazed or otherwise confined is sustained over the entire area for a continual basis, except when the pasture is being rotated, plowed, or replanted.
So by those terms, we would have the corral, which is within the green space. And then anything outside of that, but not on the housing property, would be considered the grazing or the foraging space. Am I reading that right?
No, the
No.
area where the animal's being kept is where the forage would need to be present.
So it'd be within the green fence panels?
Yes, so not outside of that, is where,
And he has to be in the covered area.
Oh, wait, I thought that the animal was going to have a space bigger than the green panels.
Yes, it's supposed to the full 7,000. She doesn't have the panels to
Well,
do.
right, okay,
full
but
7,000.
at some point, that will happen though, correct? Okay. So then, that would make it that there is forage, because the animal would be outside the green fencing at some point. That's my,
Theoretically, the entire,
The green fencing would expand.
it's gonna expand the full, as she can afford the panels,
Okay.
the full leg of that, the more narrow area of the leg. That's the 7,000, whatever it is,
the 7,000.
that is being identified.
Change,
Everything,
yep,
when it
okay.
dives in from the full width of the lot 71 down to 51, so it drops in
Right,
20
okay.
feet across.
but in order for it to remain a pasture, it has to maintain that forage, over and it has to be sustained. So, on a continual basis, it says, an area of property where forage for the type of livestock is being grazed or otherwise confined is sustained over the entire area on a continual basis.
So most lots in Normal Hill are about 7,000 square feet. So it's turning a horse out and they're lawn mowing.
Sure.
Is, at this time, how I see
They have to be able
it.
to continually eat from that
Yeah,
grass.
and that, I'm not saying you don't have hay. I understand you have hay and they're not gonna be there an extended period of time, but that lawn would be mowed.
Well,
Pretty
he came
skippy.
from up where he already had snow and, yeah,
Yeah, no, he's a
not
growing
wrong.
boy. He's a growing boy. That's, nobody's faulting that.
Katie, you may have touched on this, just to further in, is there a prohibition for long-term keeping of an animal within a dry lot? Did that say, there was a reference to temporary for suckling and other things, because that would be within the definition of the livestock area, so it's within the confines of the ask here, but
I don't believe it calls calls anything out like that specifically?
Well, a livestock area does include dry lots. So a livestock area means pasture, corral, and dry lots. And then the standard for a dry lot is a lot different than the standard for the pasture.
But I guess what I'm getting at, and maybe that's easier to ask the question, is it necessary for there to be some pasture in order for an animal to be kept there?
No, the requirements under 37-197 provide that the maximum allowable number of animals is based on the livestock area, and it's not specific to the type of area. So if it was a dry lot, it would still be required to have a 1/2 acre as the minimum area. So you would still be required to have some kind of waiver of that difference between the 1/2 acre and what is.
But if pasture was not readily available, so forage was not available, then it would fall under it would have to be maintained as a dry lot and would fall under that different portion of code.
Yes. And I would request, as a part of comprising your written reason statement, regardless of however you decide, to make a differentiation between whether or not you would consider this a pasture or a dry lot. Because a dry lot has minimum requirements, which I think that this particular area would exceed.
Okay.
Okay.
Dry lots also have different maintenance standards for manure cleanup that are called out
Okay.
in the staff report.
Commissioners, are there any last minute questions for the applicant before I, or actually any last
Don't
minute
close it
questions?
just yet. So, I mean, at this point, I would indicate that for the purposes of putting together a reason statement, your contested facts thus far relate to, so far it seems like primarily the nuisance question.
Yes.
So, before you close the public hearing, answer or ask all questions you have, because you will have to make a decision about which facts you weigh more and which information you weigh more than others.
Okay.
And you'll have to explain why you make the decision that you make and the facts that you're relying on. So if there's anything else that you need to make those determinations, this is your opportunity to obtain that information, because you can't ask any questions once the public hearing is closed.
And because it doesn't appear that I included this like I normally do, this is just your template.
Oh, okay, the relevant
Yeah,
criteria.
so that you have those criteria in front of you as you're going through. I didn't see that in the packet that I had. And I wanted to make sure you guys have that information in front of you as you're talking it out.
I mean, I will say, I guess I'm struggling with, we've heard some testimony that has said that the smell, the, for lack of a better term, the piss, the manure is not an issue, and then we've heard other testimony that says it is an issue, so I'm trying to find some sort of compromise for it, but at some level, if half, or, I'm not saying half, but if some are saying it's not an issue and some are saying are, and that's our public comments.
We're 50 of one, half dozen.
Yeah, right.
I was
Yeah,
marking.
right. That's why I'm looking for the compromise, because we've had people who literally have this, are assessing the same situation, but yet come with the same facts and coming to the opposite conclusion, which I can only come down to, it's the things that you notice, for better or worse.
So I think in the against column, we have.
Well, before, you're
no?
not deliberating yet.
No, okay.
So, one thing that I don't know if you've quite clarified, like our discussion was kind of leaning towards, and Katie mentioned, the cleaning standards for dry lots is different than pastures.
Okay.
Under Lewiston City Code, section 37-198, E3 and 4 are the two standards for manure cleanup. For a dry lot, it's required to be cleaned weekly, except when weather conditions have saturated the ground. Cleaning shall occur as soon as practical after the ground has dried. Whereas for pastures, it shall be cleaned once per month unless manure becomes offensive to a neighbor, in which case pastures shall be cleaned of manure with such frequency as not to be offensive to a neighbor. It sounds like you've received testimony that the manure has become offensive to the neighbors, but you might want to clarify exactly how frequently has been cleaned up. I know testimony has been received that the animal has been there since December 12th and only 2 times has manure been removed. But I guess getting some additional information about that might help you as a part of whether or not a nuisance is likely to have occurred or is likely to occur through the granting of this application, and kind of tailoring that to whether or not the applicant considers their property to be a dry lot or a pasture, and getting testimony related to that could be helpful.
I mean, what do you consider your property a dry lot or a pasture? Just based on the feedback? And we would encourage you to come up to the podium again, sorry. Just so we can record your comments.
You can look at the city code too.
Absolutely.
I have.
And I think we can ask some more directed questions too, because we have, so it sounds like your intent was to feed with hay primarily. Is that a fair statement that you would be feeding, or would you be
Yes,
relying
mostly.
on mostly feeding? Okay.
And my thought too was that when I bring him back for training purposes and stuff, and he spends a few days, he'll mow that down because it grows really thick on the one side of that. It doesn't look that way because it's cold, nothing's growing.
Sure.
So, and he had been up where he hadn't had grass in a while, so he just mowed that down day one.
Sure, excited about hay. Yeah, and then to clarify your testimony earlier, so you've hauled twice, but you've been picking up on more regular occasions, except for kind of the fact that the horse was forced on you a little early and had other plans. Is that a fair summary?
Yes.
Okay.
And as I put in my thing, when it's daylight and I get home and I can actually see out there, not out there with a headlamp,
Sure.
nobody wants,
Have you been
I don't want
picking
it to
up?
smell bad at my house either.
Sure. Have you been picking up most weekends, or what's,
So you're thinking weekly, you're thinking maybe
I think
establishing terms?
I think even the application indicates weekly, except in the winter. I know there's a reference somewhere to it.
I shoveled 600 pounds of shit this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do it.
That's a volume.
The animal also is there full-time right now. If the plan,
Correct,
if
yeah.
the plan is for
And
it
that
not
is
to be there full-time,
Not the intention at all.
right. There still can be a requirement to say have it picked up weekly, but the amount, so potentially the smell would be less because the animal is not on the premises as often. So by itself, the application is somewhat mitigating the nuisance to a degree. Or the plan is.
That could be a condition that
Sure.
is set.
Yep. I'm getting there. I'm waiting until we're deliberating the conditions.
That's the thing I'm struggling with too, is that some of them are, I don't know if they get to the factual basis, because they're more just deliberations.
Right.
So,
But I think we just want it on the record, so when we get to the factual deliberations, that's our reference point. And to just gather information that we may or may not use in our reason statement, but
In the pasture dry lot, whatever we wanna call it, how long have you lived in the property?
21 years.
In that back 40, as we're gonna call it, do you find it in the springtime it's pretty soggy? Does it have a pretty decent ground drainage?
It soaks in, I mean, it's not any different than my yard, it's pretty hard packed. But it,
No, I'm thinking, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just thinking, quite often, and I've been around horses myself, so I know that when they are contained in a smaller area and we hit spring and things get soggy and saturated, and they're contributing to the soggy and saturated.
well, but it'll be muddy, but he won't be there,
So by that, when you talk about, right now, it's getting him gelded.
Yes, she has 3 horses, 3 acres. She has an older gelding that is, I wouldn't take him there not being, no.
Right. You don't,
Because
yeah, you don't.
he has behavioral issues, so I want him to be,
Calmer.
I want him to be gelded before he goes there to try to mitigate any issues that she might have with her older gelding that is not very nice, so.
Yeah. So one of the things that I don't think that we have talked about much at all, we understand that you're thinking bring him in on the weekends and work with him and then take him back, but we haven't really defined any real, it's a vague. And you don't have an appointment yet for the gelding, and then of course you're gonna want the healing time once that's done. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
But if you were gonna give us a rough idea of timeline, when he would remain on site uninterrupted to when he starts the back and forth, now that you've got a trailer.
Like I said, I wanna get his appointment as soon as I could, so. Without being too graphic, they wanna know if both of them are down and like, I'm trying to get acquainted with him without.
Yeah, so you can't just walk up, okay.
I was down there with a flashlight last night, but,
And of
I'm
course,
trying to get him to where I can handle him, to where I can call them and say yes, because it's a totally different surgery if there's 1 or 2. So, yeah, we're not that good of friends yet. We're working on it. So,
And
like I
that-
said, he was a baby, he was out, he's never been alone, he's never been in town, it's just, everything's new,
You're new.
exactly, so.
So the backyard is the proximity to him, so he becomes connected and lets you jiggle his bits, I guess.
Yes, so,
And let
I'm
somebody
trying to
else do
assess the
it.
situation.
Sorry.
I don't wanna be
But-
crude, but.
No, we gotcha. I did it for you, we're fine, okay. Okay. Because I think that, and I don't wanna deliberate to get formal, but it's the undefined.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the not having, I mean, there's a plan, there just isn't a exact timeline that goes with the plan.
So when we think about nuisance, we've had a nasty cold snap where my husband's beekeeper, so we talk weather changes all the time. So I know that we're warming. And even in this coming week, we are warming up into probably close to the 50s. And then spring showers, if in fact the universe decides to shower for spring. And then as the days warm, then comes, if we don't remediate, then comes flies, then comes, the exacerbation of odor. And so that's why I guess I was asking about your idea of a timeline, because I'm thinking calendar.
Yeah. I don't want him to be there when it's wet and it's dug up, so the sooner the better.
So, I mean, feasibly, how long do you, and I know it's a little bit vague, but like maximum time, maximum duration, how long would you expect for him to get comfortable with you, another human being near his stuff, getting the surgery, then recovering, and then going out?
I would say 3 weeks and then he'll be out there full-time.
Okay.
And then as the days are longer and it gets warmer and I can bring him in where I can work with him because it's daylight and I can see, then I'll bring him in here and there, but not, like I said, it was never my intention to have him full-time.
So Leslie, one of my thoughts is, quite often in these things, we have to talk about how you're gonna mediate or remediate anything, a neighbor complaint, nuisance complaint. We got code, that's one thing, but we're talking, let's say you have the baby in for a weekend and you hope to work with him, but maybe you don't, right? And you think, well, I'm here till March, so I can leave him for the next, week, and then I can get those days. what happens if a neighbor knocks on the door, asks the police to come by and, like, if you have the conditional use, that's a win, but like, how would you choose to remediate in the moment complaint from an adjacent neighbor? If the smell's getting too much, or the noise, or the nighttime kicking, keeping the kid away?
Funny coming from somebody whose dog barks until 1 o'clock in the fucking morning. But anyway, right under my bedroom window.
Got it. I gotcha.
It wouldn't smell so bad if he'd keep his nose in his own yard. I don't do anything on that side of my property simply to avoid. I haven't spoke to those people in 5 years.
I mean, I guess
Well-
I don't want to try and get or put words in your mouth, and
I think if
Cindy,
you
but
gave him a gold brick, he'd bitch because it's too heavy.
I think that kind of
Okay,
testimony is outside
we're
the
off.
scope of
We-
this.
I
public
will
hearing.
do my best to keep it cleaned up, but I don't see ever making that neighbor happy.
One concern, and I'm gonna introduce it, one concern, should this, and I'm speculating, but this is all we can do at this point.
right.
Should this be approved? Conditions or whatever, with conditions or whatever. And do you have concerns or fears that harassment or hostilities will increase? Do you have
Again,
concern?
that kind of question is outside the
I can't,
scope
okay.
of whether or not there is a nuisance.
But it's about remediation.
I guess, yeah, I mean.
I'm sorry.
I mean, the city works with everybody anytime there is a complaint.
Well, I mean.
And
Right.
there is a process, when a nuisance is alleged. And whether or not one could characterize such complaints as harassment or something other, the city, through its official channels, will address the validity of such complaints and the extent of such alleged nuisances. And typically, we work with property owners to develop a plan before removal is required.
So in a lot of our discussions, when we get to the point of the criteria being nuisance, will it pose? Can it pose? Quite often in these other conditional use, we talk about what and how will you address complaints, if any? And I think sometimes in my time on this board, how it would be handled or what they could do in hopes of handling it can either reassure and affect how the decision is made to support or not support, or there's not enough telling us that it's gonna meet the needs of the individuals. And I understand that city. The reason I asked the question is, give us some ideas of what you would see remediation being, in your opinion, so that we can understand what the applicant is offering if we determine there will likely be a nuisance.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, the situation I would come up with is any neighbor, not picking.
No, I'm not picking on
Right.
you.
No, I know. So the hypothetical neighbor, we impose a condition that says, and this is a hypothetical, I'm not saying we will do this. The hypothetical is you clean the waste once a week. And that's not acceptable to a neighbor. They raise a complaint, whatever. And that is explained to them, and there are still issues. So beyond the code enforcement,
conditions.
right?
Well, I mean, I would just note too that even if that were a condition and the odor were to be too offensive, the city would be within its rights to require additional abatement, including up to removal if the odor were to be too offensive and it wasn't something that could be abated, regardless of whether or not there was a CUP approved or how one would characterize the nature of the complaints.
Do we have the ability of adding a time period restriction, whatever we wanna call that, to this type of permit? Cause it sounds like, I guess, without deliberating, one of my concerns is that it's an all or nothing. And it sounds like a lot of the concerns would be abated by the plan. So the concern is obviously if the approval is granted and the plan changes, then a lot of the concerns become much more relevant. So do we have that ability
Yes.
to say that, say the horse is not allowed to be on the property for any period in excess of 7 calendar days? Is that
Well,
In a row?
like in a row? Correct.
I mean, I was thinking
Or 14 calendar days or whatever.
Maybe we're veering a little bit too much into deliberation, but that's why I was focusing so hard on how
It's a
long.
genuine question,
How
not necessarily a
long
recommendation
you
of an ability, because.
So under Lewiston City Code, section 37-199, you can set limitations as a condition of approval related to the number of animals, the types of animals, and any other aspect of keeping the animal, including the transferability of the CUP. As far as setting time limitations, when you set vague stuff like can keep them for 7 days, that becomes a little bit harder to enforce because like 7 days from when, or when
In a row,
in a row.
in a month.
What if they leave for
Yeah.
a day and then
Yeah.
come back, and those kind of limitations are a little bit harder than other like specific times.
And once we do approve, if in fact we were to choose to approve a conditional use, we can't say, but the whole thing dissolves in 3 months, because once we.
You can.
Can we?
Yeah.
So we can put when we're talking time, we can put a term limit on how long the conditional use permit is granted to the applicant, and beyond that point, there is no longer.
And you can tie it to specific animals too.
Yeah, because that's the approval of any conditional use permit
Well,
application
okay, but
governed by the.
does that tie to, because there's a process for code enforcement. So say hypothetical neighbor raises a stink with code enforcement, valid or not, does that, if we set a time limit and it's got metrics on the CUP, does that impact the CUP based on that process?
Not necessarily. If it was a situation where the CUP was valid and the applicant was within the confines of that, it would to some degree negate the complaint. But if they were outside the restrictions or the conditions of the CUP, then that would bolster the potential offense. And I mean, having enforced animal rights and nuisances in the past, we have gone as far as, identifying the sucklings and the adults. And then when there's more adults than before or more sucklings than before, we're not taking pictures of like the specific animals, but, you can tell when they're being turned over or the numbers are growing and reducing.
Well, right, you'll notice 2 horses instead of 1 on the property.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, or like a brown horse and a white horse.
What I struggle with is that I think if you're following your intent, I don't think there's gonna be any complaints, any reasonable complaints. So if the horse is there occasionally, if they're working with it and then it leaves, it's in a horse trailer, it's back out to where it can go to pasture, the likelihood of buildup of manure and all these other concerns just evaporate. But my fear is, I don't know how you do an enforceable metric to make that happen. And so the immediate fear is that if we approve, then you get into this realm of the horse is now there 24/7, the plan changes, and all of our considerations for that, like the manure and the other issues become a problem. And that's hard, because
And making the CUP flexible enough to accommodate things that change, like a surgery getting
Exactly.
rescheduled, not being able to move the horse off the property for another week.
100%, absolutely, yeah.
So can, clarify, so can somebody ask for a conditional use permit and we put a time limit on that? Can they come back then again, I'm just hypothetically speaking, we give it 6 months?
An extension.
Could they come back and get an additional conditional use permit?
I can tell you that I'm not gonna spend another $400 to come back in 6 months and do this again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's a cost, there's a
But yes, they can.
That leads me to a question to Leslie. Would, let's say hypothetically, we do say we would like to grant it almost in a temporary status so that it terminates or is completed and no longer valid in a period of 4 to 6 months. Would that serve your needs? Would that make you not necessarily happy, but would it meet what you need?
I feel that I bought my house and I paid it off before I ever got to live in it, and I feel like some people should keep their nose on their side of the fence, because I do.
I understand.
I asked him to cut their shrubs down, there was literally this
Again, I think
much.
this kind of testimony is outside the scope of the public hearing.
Would it be, knowing that from the applicant, would it be fair to say, though, that if, what I do not want to happen regardless of our decision, and this would happen if we hypothetically say yes, is that it creates a situation where a neighbor is putting a code enforcement violation on the application every week.
There's nothing we can do to stop that.
Well, my question for the applicant would be, are you willing to deal with that? It's a hypothetical, so you can say, I don't know.
Outside the scope of the
So
I think if anything, I guess the question would be offered to the applicant of what would you like to see as possible conditions for this particular application?
Sure. Put much better than I could come up with.
You put it on one animal, and I've told you my intent, that's exactly my intent, is to have him there on occasion for training purposes. When it's mostly like in the summer when the days are longer and I can actually get out, because I work, like I said, I'm at work by 5 in the morning and I don't get home until 5 in the afternoon.
Does he have like a registration number or like an identification number or something that's unique to him that if they were to identify it in the approval, if that were their decision, that should a complaint arise that maybe it's a different animal or something to that effect, as far as keeping more of a longer term CUP in place?
He just has, his only white is right on his forehead, just a tiny little dot right there. And other than that, he's completely black, but he doesn't have, he's not chipped or tattooed or registered or anything.
What about as far as future plans down the line? I mean, would it be fair to say that your intent is to keep probably at the property more, I guess, longer term, so more than a day or two, more during the summer months when the daylight is longer versus like the winter times when the daylight is shorter?
Yes, it will be. There's no point in having him there when it's dark out all the time. When he gets bigger, he should be with his friends.
So maybe more of a seasonal,
Rotation or a basis, a season.
yeah. What would you, if there was a seasonal kind of restriction, what would be permissible for you? Or what would be workable for what you intend? Because, I mean, again, just because he might not be at the property long-term, you know, there might be times when he is there longer than other times. And if he's gonna live for 20 years, I don't know that a 6-month CUP is appropriate. And so, you know, maybe what the applicant would think is reasonable might be.
Time change. April, May. So it would be like from there to August or September, I mean.
Summer solstice is June 21st, so the days are starting, the days are getting longer
Getting longer
now.
because I'm getting home when it's
Right.
about 10 minutes before it's dark.
But if there was a seasonal kind of restriction, what would you think is reasonable as far as that? As far as keeping the animal there?
How could we say an April to September or an April to October span and still address the need today?
It's a hard kind of comparison. What I keep jumping to is like 37-130 on like the temporary parking of recreational vehicles. Just because it's dealing in that the no stay shall exceed 14 days at any one time or 45 days in any calendar year. That kind of a reference where and again, I don't know of the enforceability for that, but
Yeah.
where you're essentially baking in what her plan is anyway.
Yeah.
But you're baking it in so that plan can't change, and then that's the
They're
struggle.
documenting.
Yeah, well, but the neighbor's going
Policing.
to,
The
or somebody's
policing
going
is
to.
what I'm-
Yeah.
Policing.
Right,
So-
right. But they already, that's already the code for RVs, and we know those are gonna
Right.
get turned in all the time.
Well, and also there is a policing component if there's a violation and,
No matter what.
code
Yeah.
enforcement is involved. So,
Well, and the city is trying to get away from those more vague,
Sure.
right.
That's why we changed our parking regulations from a consecutive 24 hours to prohibitions between specific times.
Sure.
Right.
And so,
I just struggle with restrictions that are flexible enough for the applicant, but also meet
100%, yeah.
a plan that isn't, which, fair enough, is not fully clear yet, that doesn't put the applicant in a box and balancing
which
certain
almost,
neighbor needs.
which almost leaves it to it being preferable that there not be a specific provision because enforceability would be
Yes.
too hard or too vague.
Yeah, that's, I think we can set broad restrictions. I'm struggling to get it down to a granular level that I think we're all asking questions that are trying to do that. And I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that because I don't think we have enough information to do that successfully.
And I would note too that because her area does allow for animals by conditional use, under the guidance in 37-199, you're to assume that the use is okay. And it's the other factors,
Which is the space.
and then in addressing the written reason statement, the mitigation of the possible offenses, or of possible nuisances. That's where it sounds like you're kind of tailoring the mitigation efforts. But again, it sounds like everyone agrees that while there may be odors or other things, she does have a plan in place to mitigate that. So whether or not an actual durational restriction is required, I think that would be more for deliberation, because the testimony from the applicant would probably address that aspect of it. So while there may be nuisances, it sounds like there is a plan in place to mitigate that.
I can also tell you that I have him on camera 24/7. With cell service on it, so I spy on him all the time, and I sleep with my bedroom window open. And other than the first 2 nights when he was just new and first time away from his mommy, he has not been noisy because I would hear it. That, and I have 3 dogs, so my dogs would hear
They're
it.
normally not. They get chatty sometimes, but it's. Okay, that's hard.
When I get out of my truck in the evening, he hears me pulling, he knows my truck already.
Oh, that's winning.
And like this morning, when I went out and chipped his water and had it in, he was, pointing at me as I went off to work this morning, so we're getting to where I can handle him.
He's getting it.
Commissioners, if there aren't any other questions?
I would
Just other than thank you.
I would just ask, does the applicant have any last words?
Do you have any closing thoughts? It's okay if you don't. You
That
don't
we,
have-
that we can
I
put
know,
on record?
You don't have to.
Yeah. I'm not gonna air my grievances, but,
Appreciate it.
It doesn't sound like it's new.
no.
Okay.
They turned my dog in and she went and turned him into the police and they put in a claim on my homeowner's insurance. And I
I
was
think that's outside the
standing
scope
right
of this particular public hearing.
So,
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. We good, Commission? To close it? Just double checking and making sure, triple checking. All right. All right, so we are on to the funnest portion, which is not a word, I know that. To deliberate the relevant criteria and standards. So, starting with number 1, the proposed use will or will not result in conditions that will tend to generate nuisances such as noise, dust, glare, vibrations, and odors, or if so, any anticipated nuisances will be appropriately mitigated.
I would say it likely will produce,
Agreed.
and I would then follow it up with reasonable mitigation may not be considered sufficient mitigation.
What I struggle with is if the horse is, if the CUP would allow the horse to be kept there continuously, I'm concerned that there would not be a way to mitigate the nuisances. That's my concern. That's where I keep getting back to. It's such a small area, and you hit it perfectly, Cindy, when you were talking about kind of that springtime wet. That is I mean, I look at my side yard, which is this size, and with 2 dogs and 2 kids, I can't keep grass in portions of my side yard, and they're not eating it, and they're not horses.
We have 2 Goldens and our side yard is destroyed.
Yeah, and it's, mine area is not too different from this, the 50 by 150. So again, what I struggle with is that her intent would probably not result in an unmitigatable nuisance if it's there on weekends and everything else. But if, I don't know how we impose a condition that would actually require her to follow that intent. And I don't have a good answer for that.
I mean, to me, she does have a point when she says, like, it's my property. What I struggle with is that you have neighbors that are saying it's an issue, and there are neighbors that are not saying an issue, and they are both downwind of the same issue.
Right.
So for me, if it comes down to that, then it comes down to either conditions that she appropriately mitigates it to this commission's best ability to mandate, and then it's on her good judgment and code enforcement, or her current mitigation efforts, sorry, I was searching for my words there, are appropriate. So
And the struggle too, and I'll pick on myself, so I'm not picking on her. I have a neighbor I don't like, and if I'm gonna park something obnoxious, I'm probably gonna put it near the neighbor that I don't like. And so if the manure is being picked up on a semi-regular basis, which is the testimony, but it's not being removed from the property except for twice in a 2-month or month-and-a-half span, there's a decent chance that the disparaging, the difference in testimony is based on where that's being stored in between being picked up and being removed from the property.
I think she did state that she does nothing on that side of her property because of the proximity.
Right.
And that is, and I understand the testimony she provided outside the scope. So I'm not going to bring that into our relevant criteria and standards because it's not within the scope. But that is part of where I think the difference in some of the commentary we've heard from neighbors is some neighbors are focusing on that aspect and others are
Sure,
not.
100%, yeah.
And so for me, when you consider that, and the fact that she has said that she picks it up as much as she can, that she would pick it up more during daylight hours when the animal is there. I would argue in the absence of conditions, she is mitigating it to the best of her ability, absent of us putting additional conditions on the nuisance.
I would agree with that.
So there is a nuisance.
But there is a
It is-
plan in place.
There's a plan in place and she is saying that it's being appropriately mitigated. If we don't feel that it's being appropriately mitigated, then it would be my view that the commission should impose or come up with some sort of condition to make it so that it is more likely to be appropriately mitigated.
I think we have some testimony right now that it's not being appropriately mitigated, and I wonder if that would be addressed by requiring it to not only be cleaned up but removed from the property.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the gray area in the
Cleaned up
statute
and
is,
stored.
right, because as of right now, we have testimony that it's being cleaned up, but it's not being removed from the property.
Yeah,
which
stored in buckets.
May not be specifically being addressed under the city code.
Would you,
That physical
would you give,
removal.
physical removal, but let's say she goes and scoops the area 5 times, like not every night, but every other night.
Sure.
And it goes into a 55-gallon drum.
Mhm.
Would you say, 1 drum filled and you haul it, or would you say 2 drums filled and you haul it, or would you say every time you got in the backyard and scoop, you haul
Right,
it?
you wouldn't do that, it'd
There
be,
is in code, under the maintenance, the manure storage.
Okay.
So it mentions stockpile manure storages shall not exceed a footprint of 500 square feet
Oh, she's cold.
from March through October, and 800 square feet from November through February be no greater than 6 feet high.
Oh.
It needs to
Yeah,
be
just-
That's a lot of poop.
yeah, the concern.
stockpiled.
I'm just envisioning that scene from Jurassic Park
Yeah,
where he
it's-
walks
And
the
then place
pile.
minimum-
Sorry, not germane.
Minimum of 30 feet from any property line.
But therein lies, I think, the problem is the property line.
50 feet wide,
Yeah, there's no way that she can keep it off the property line.
And I guess what I was envisioning is essentially that cleanup requirement is a removal requirement. So it's not it's removed once a week or whatever that is, every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that same language where it's differing during the seasons is very relevant. Is I guess what I would,
But I guess how do we enforce that though?
exactly, and that's my concern with all of these, is that if we approve without hard to enforce restrictions.
Well, then it'll be up on her and the residents to enforce. I mean,
Trust me, when it comes down to the frequency of manure being removed, usually we can get enough neighbor photographs, testimony, site visit, and even the code enforcement officer, I mean, sometimes they can tell it's been there a while, so I wouldn't focus too much on some of those nuances because that would be more of falls on the city of for enforcement
and the community, and based on some of the testimony we've had, I bet you there are people who will look up this CUP one way or the other. Not good or bad, just saying that people who are involved, they will find the information.
Yeah.
And so that means we do need it as a condition, but we don't have to worry about much of the enforceability, or we don't need it as a condition because it would otherwise be
Well, I mean, it
enforced?
depends, if you want it as something that's enforceable, like, the frequency of removal, if you want to establish a condition that she remove the manure from the property more frequently versus just shoveling and stockpiling, you could do that. And then when it comes down to and setting a period,
Sure,
so like,
okay.
removed once a week or removed 2 times, a minimum of 2 times a month, then at the very least, when we have complaints, it would be on code enforcement to
investigate
investigate
look into
and
it.
improve whether or not that's being done.
So, the baby's been there for a month, and she has made 2 trips. She's never gonna hit the 6 feet and 500 square feet and all those things.
Right.
So, 2 times in 2 months is once every other week. And
So we could set it for like, we could set
once a week disposal.
Well, so my thought process would be, because I do like the idea of it being seasonal, because obviously it smells more when it's warmer. But it also doesn't smell as much when it's colder, like around this time of year. So I would like to, my thought process, if it's feasible, would be to have a condition where it's seasonal, not overly complicated. So maybe something like over, I'm just spitballing here, this is not absolute, but like from May to October, it is removed, the poop is removed from the premises twice a month. And then other months, it needs to be removed once a month. I'm not saying that's what we have to go with, but that's.
Would you guys want to follow what's already called out in code regarding when you can stockpile?
Probably seasonal, because that was in there, right?
Yeah, because it calls
May.
out March through October.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so those.
And then November through February.
So
Okay,
the
okay.
March through October is more frequently, yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
okay, yep, yeah, the warmer
Less.
months, yep.
Okay,
You can stockpile less during those months.
okay.
The, in the existing requirements for that weekly management of manure in dry yards, is that contemplating physical pickup or is that contemplating removal?
It just
Kind of
says
a gray area.
cleaning, because it says dry lots shall be cleaned weekly except when weather conditions have saturated the ground. Cleaning shall occur as soon as practical after the ground has dried. But that's all it says, it says cleaned weekly, it does
That's
not
probably
talk
more
about.
the condition of the animal, so it's not constantly building up, but less like
Yeah.
a nuisance.
Do you wanna get, I know you're gonna understand this, Dash, but if you wanna get into statutory interpretation, subsection E is specific to manure cleanup, where subsection F is related to manure disposal,
Okay.
and then G is manure storage. So the cleaning up is distinct from disposal in that it's more likely of just the shoveling it into a bin and so the conditions about weekly cleaning are shoveling at least once a week, and then the manure disposal doesn't have anything, just that they have to do it.
Right, because under F, there wouldn't be, because they could haul it off to an approved facility. They theoretically could, there may be an area that it could be composted, it's not within 30 feet of any property line,
Yeah,
which I don't know if there is a spot
It
here.
would have to be in her back, in the non-pasture.
What's the back little, yeah, it'd have to be right in the backyard, I don't know
To
if
fit
that
that, because
lot
that's
is even wide
71,
enough.
that's
Yeah.
71, she'd have to literally put it on her back porch, or at least,
And, yeah, okay.
whereas if she's if she's cleaned it up and she's not disposing of it, she can then store it. And that's where subsection G as related to manure storage, and then those time limitations and size, areas for stockpiled manure come into place.
and she did say it's not in a hill, it's in barrels.
Right,
Yes, yeah.
Probably just trash cans like we all do
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with that waste or whatever, yeah.
And then in that area, it also says you can't store it for more than a period of 45 days. From March to October, or 60 days from November to February.
When, I didn't actually see H deals with, it probably inclines, the materials cleaned from stalls, pasture areas shall be removed from the property unless composted or reused and located on site in such a manner as not to cause any nuisance neighbors.
Yeah, the spreaders.
Well, sometimes, what happens sometimes is, people will water the manure into the ground.
Sure.
So it's never actually being removed.
Oh, yes,
okay.
okay, yeah, that makes,
Makes the grass grow.
Yeah.
That's good fertilizer.
And it's not being spread, tilled, or harrowed.
Oh,
It's just
gotcha.
being
Got sprayed
watered.
with the hose,
Oh,
right?
Just to
And then-
dissolve it
yeah, and
out.
yes, and then dissolving.
It's a solid
And then
loophole, I
just-
can't get mad at that,
and
that's a
just
good
leave-
loophole.
Leaving it-
That's the way my husband takes
Leaving it
care of the
as
dogs.
is.
So
like
that
running-
kind of plays up into that drainage
Oh, I
that
don't know,
Shay had asked
I don't
about at the
technically
beginning,
know what
but-
Harrod is,
Okay.
but
It's with the
I'm assuming it's
discs.
different.
It's with the discs.
Oh,
It's
So-
like where you run over the dog poop with the lawnmower 5 times.
Not
It's-
quite,
it-
not
Yeah.
quite.
No, I know, that's like the.
Yeah, but so you get the spreaders that are literally dropping the poop as you go, and it's usually 5 to 6 feet wide. And then behind that are the row of discs that are
Sure.
chopping it and pushing it into
turning it
the,
over.
pushing
Like
it into the
folding it.
ground.
You
No,
got
it's pushing it,
fold.
yeah, it's
Smoothing
fold it
it,
in, you just
yeah.
fold it in, yes.
And
So-
she would not be eligible to do that because she
No.
doesn't have nearly enough area, so, okay.
And she's already indicated property removal. She's removing it from the property.
Yes, yes.
And she doesn't want her backyard smelling like the
Well, right.
I mean,
South
and-
pasture.
I mean, to the defense of animal rights, most of this is beyond, when we look at a nuisance, it's beyond what's reasonable.
Of course, yeah.
Idaho law generally says if, people have the right to keep animals, animal noises and smells come with that. The question is it unreasonable?
I'm sympathetic to the commentary of we live in a city, we have a right to like certain things, but also at the same time,
Right.
like neighbors' dogs bark, like,
100%, yeah.
so,
Well, one of the things I struggle with anytime I get toward the area of a denial in my head is that if she makes a very minimal agreement with her neighbor and her neighbor is inclined based on their statement to do so, she could easily obtain enough pasture area to meet the requirement and then she'd have her horse.
Except that in the neighbor's thing, it was in that temporary sense where if she wants to lunge them
100%,
or
right.
if she wants to put them over there while she's cleaning the.
Well, what I mean is more
container.
is that if the goal is to kind of protect the neighbors from an animal, she with very minimal effort could theoretically put an animal there anyway, she just would need to expand, because there's enough area in the two neighbors there that's essentially unused for easily to obtain enough to have that animal.
I mean, she said she didn't want to,
Sure.
and I think that's because of cost, because she
Fencing.
knows the fencing.
100%, yeah.
And fencing is expensive, so I understand it, but that would be a way, that would be a way to mitigate.
And her intent is to have the animal live most of the time somewhere else, she made that very clear.
And if I can throw out there, I don't know the code in that particular space 22 years ago, like the zone code.
Sure.
I don't know if it was R2 or livestock or whatever it was, and over time things have changed, and then we've gone to smaller lot sizes, and you can see it flanks 7th, the smaller lot size, but that's still an area that permits livestock.
Yes.
And if you
I mean,
decide that you want to live in the city and you
Yeah.
don't want to live anywhere near livestock,
Don't live in
then
the-
don't.
Well, that was my general comment about, like, it's different if somebody is proposing putting 5 horses in this property versus 1, which is.
Continuous,
Right.
yeah.
So I think there's an unofficial reasonable standard that you can use to be like, is somebody proposing something outrageous and they're just like, I don't care if there's poop on the property, versus 1 animal, it's going to be there part-time, and there are reasonable, as much as there can be, reasonable efforts to mitigate
One thing
potential nuisances.
we keep hitting that, I think all of us are hitting it as far as that it's gonna be there part-time, and my concern is that's not what we're contemplating approval. We unless we put a condition, we're not contemplating part-time. We're contemplating that she could leave the animal there
So
nonstop.
that's vague.
Right, that's the concern.
Well, the plan to put part-time would go towards more of the mitigation aspect, to some degree.
I mean, that is why.
That's my fear, is that if we approve it without a condition that, and then there's necessarily vague that says something like part-time for training purposes, all these like horrifying lawyer, like how in the world do we enforce that? Then there's nothing stopping her from putting that horse there and it never leaving.
Well, I think somewhat I think you can address that in 2 ways. You can address it either by a timeline standard of how long the animal can be there, the duration, or you can address it through the mitigation efforts itself, so that your mitigation efforts might be overly tailored towards an animal that is there part-time, but they're built in there to address if things change and the animal is there 5 days a week.
So
That's an
is it stupid to consider the idea of primary residence versus secondary? Like,
Of the horse?
yeah,
How do we do it?
That would
Yeah,
not
I don't
matter
know.
as far as the terms of the conditional use
Yeah,
permit.
okay, no, I just
Really
wondered.
interesting, I'm
Thank you.
curious, so if we're heavily curtailing or heavily setting the condition based on mitigation, what does it look like as far as that so waste shall be, whatever the terms are, cleaned up and disposed and removed for every 2 days that the horse is on the premises? Like, is there something where we're essentially
Where it's
enforcing
enforced.
that, where if she could leave the horse there permanently, but if she's cleaning and removing the manure every 2 days, it's not gonna build up. It's obnoxious and she's not gonna do it, but is that something we,
Yeah, but again, recording, was it 2 days, was it 3 days, I think,
but
showing
again,
it
that goes
Sunday.
to the same thing as weekly, right? That's code enforcement.
Right, that's, yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, code enforcement and enforcement of CUPs and conditions is on somebody making the complaint. I
Sure,
mean,
sure,
I think
yeah.
we,
No, we know, it's
yeah.
complaint based.
I mean, I wasn't there for the meeting when for those who were on the commission at the time, when there was conversation around, what was it, the storage containers, and, you know, there were storage containers all across Lewiston, but only certain ones were investigated by code enforcement, because only certain people made
Sure,
those
sure.
complaints. So code enforcement, to a degree, from my understanding, is that there has to be a complaint
100%.
initiated.
Yeah, no, that's not your understanding, I sat down with Shannon and with Dave. And that was the exact mandate that came down from the mayor. It is complaint based only, it is not policing.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. But something like that, I would actually be pretty supportive of, as far as that the mitigation is based on number of days or whatever that the horse is present, because then if it avoids a lot of my fears personally,
Yes. Yeah.
that if the horse is then just left there permanently in this microscopic area, how do we then abate the nuisance?
I think if you put overly strict, I mean, for the metric of the horse is there 2-3 days a week, I'm just spitballing. And the metric is you remove manure from the property once a week in summer months, and then, from March to October, you remove the manure once a week. In the period from November to February, it can be every 2 weeks or twice a month.
So you're saying remove stored?
Remove stored, yes. So remove from the property, the stored poop once a week during the period of March to October, and then during the periods of November to February, you remove it from the property at a minimum twice a month, or every 2 weeks. I just stick with twice a month, because 1 week is 52 weeks, twice a month is
It's all good.
24.
Yeah.
So it's a standard number.
Yeah, and I kind of like the month thing, because I mean, the fact is, we don't know how many days a week she's going to have the horse there. So it's like there might be some weeks maybe she has it there more, so
Right.
that flexibility of 2 times a month, she can kind of use that as like, okay, well, the horse is here it just gives that flexibility, and then it's not, someone's not with a camera or like figuring out how long she's had the horse there.
And I don't really think, I mean, to be fair, I don't really think she's gonna wanna keep there may be cases where it's there, say, once in a blue moon for the entire week, but I really don't think that she's going to have that on a consistent basis.
The what ifs.
Yeah.
The what ifs are the person that allows you to pasture your horse no longer does. Or a property sales and you haven't found another boarding
location or a stable that will take them or those kind of things. So that's, you don't know what tomorrow brings as far as what she currently has as far as arrangements now versus what's gonna come down the road.
And as of right this second, she's had the horse there for a month and a half. So I mean, it's not an insignificant period. I know that's not her plan, but it has been there since December 12th. based on
And
testimony.
my favorite saying is nobody died.
Exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly.
And I
But I don't wanna be disrespectful.
think too, we can base it off of the fact of what we do know. We do know the square footage that she's using for that horse. So, and I'm sure that where these came from is based off of the original square footage of the 2,100 square feet. So I think we can say that because it's a reduced square footage size, that justifies increasing
Cleanup
if we
and
do
removal.
increase.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Increasing
yeah.
instead of focusing on the time frame because that is so vague.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would like to see the cleanup be more than is required, or the disposal, I'll qualify, because we have really good cleanup already in the ordinance. It says that it shall be cleaned at least twice a week, such that they provide healthy living area. That's wonderful. That's, based on testimony, she's wildly out of compliance with that at the moment, but that's a different problem. So disposal, though, we absolutely go to that. And this is such a small area that if we put a restriction on disposal, I think we're mitigating a huge amount of that issue.
To the best of this commission.
Correct. And then the question is at what point is that mitigation, is it more substantial? Because we don't have a disposal requirement at this stage. We know she's not allowed to store it, we know she's not allowed to till it because she doesn't have any pasture. So then it's,
I think if we put a condition on it, it would be appropriately mitigated. So my proposal as a condition would be during the periods of March to October.
Well, reference the code to follow whatever.
Well,
You don't
she's,
have to because you're already doing something different than that.
Okay, thank you.
well, it's above the current minimum, the standards for the code. So the condition that I would put on to appropriately mitigate would be during the periods of March to October, it is removed from the premises, at least that waste is stored waste, is removed from the premises at a minimum of once a week, and then from the periods of November to February, stored waste is removed from the premises a minimum of 2 times a month.
I like it,
For me.
yeah, that works.
So you said once a week for the one, but then 2
Yep.
times a month?
Yes.
Would it be more feasible to say 4 times a month? That way that you're using
terms are the
consistent terms? Because if it's only once a week during the summer times and she disposes of it on Thursday on one time, but then Saturday on the next time, that's
That's fair.
more than a
If we
week.
mirror the statute, we could do days. So the statute is, shall not be stored for a period of longer than 45 days during the month of March to October, 60 days through November through February. Is 7 days a cleaner thing? As far as shall be removed every 7 days?
So you're saying it was removed every
So
45
there's,
days?
our code, it's shall not be stored for longer than 45 days during the month of March through October, 60 days.
I guess what
November
about
through February.
10 days during the hot months and 20
You mean
days?
she'll not,
I agree week is weird, because it's like, well, I just took it on Sunday.
wait, so you're saying during March to October
Stored removal
must be done, or must be done
once every 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay, and then during November to February, it must be
Once every
done
20
every
days.
15 days, 20
I'd say
days?
20,
Okay, every 20 days,
And
okay.
I'm
because you
just
said
thinking
it's
that
60.
That might be hard to. I'm just thinking if this was given to me, like I would kind of have a hard time, like.
Well, you'd have to have a calendar,
So,
I mean, to be honest.
That's why we want to also make it easy. I mean, I don't want to say easy, but we want to make it something easy to follow as well. So I think keeping it to the month, because we're talking about.
So
just-
weekly and bi-weekly?
Sure, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, sure, we could do weekly and bi-weekly.
No?
No, because bi-weekly means 2 times a week.
Oh, wait,
to
sorry.
some people.
Bi-monthly, oh, I'm
Bi-monthly,
sorry,
sorry.
sorry.
Oh, bi-monthly,
Sorry.
twice a month,
Even
but then
I
we
didn't
run into
catch
the same
that.
issue
Okay.
where we're not dealing on weeks anymore for bi-monthly, right?
Yeah.
There is a term for every 2 weeks, but it's a weird one and no one knows it, so I probably shouldn't use that.
I mean, I would almost favor to keep it.
Yeah, exactly, there we go.
Keep it at the month thing, like you were saying.
Once a month or
4 times a month,
4 times a month. I
or
do,
2 times a
yeah,
month.
I do kind of like 4 times, four times a month, and then the other one was weekly.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna arm wrestle over it, I'm fine with
No,
that.
yeah. So 2 times a month, 4 times a month?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Okay, so from March to October, manure must be hauled off to an approved facility
4
Off
times.
property, yeah.
4
Yeah,
times.
4 times a month,
And then from November to February, 2 times a month?
yes.
Okay, so
I
I'm sure
would-
I get it correct.
Totally, if I had a garden, be hitting her up.
Absolutely, yeah. Make friends with some of the
Well,
neighbors. and
yeah,
probably,
that, but she can bring that
Start
kind of as
packaging
a,
up in those seed bags and sell it.
Facebook Marketplace.
it can kind of be a
There you
care
go.
package and be like, this is fertilizer, it is not meant.
So, I mean, in that sense, I mean, you're saying that she has to take it to an approved facility. Would you rather just say that she
Removed
is
from property.
I would say remove
removed
from property.
consistent with
there
city
you go.
code?
Remove consistent with
Well-
city code, yeah.
Do we, so in theory, she could compost within an area, so do we want her to hauled off site to a
Well,
separate
or she
facility?
could give it to somebody else to be composted.
Sure.
I mean,
Just
cause
remove from property.
Yeah, just remove from property consistent with city code is how I would phrase it. And however she uses it, gets it off the property consistent with city code. If it's consistent with city code,
So the
then,
conditions are more frequent removal,
yeah,
but it still follows code as far as what removal means.
because
Yes.
because there's not, I mean, to some degree, arguably, if someone else with a pasture wanted it, they could then take that manure and then, spread till or harrow it into their pasture.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, sure, yeah.
And there's no restriction on composting off-site, there's no.
Yeah.
Yep, well,
Just
that's,
because
yeah.
the
that's-
language is just broad enough that
Yep,
that's great.
one
So it has
could
to be removed from
interpret
the
it that
property,
way.
we don't really care
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
It's-
Hauled
Yeah.
off
Sure.
from the subject property.
Dump it on your neighbor's
Subject property.
arborvitae,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep,
Makes you
subject
happy.
property.
Well, we drive out to the compost place and bring it in and then stink up our whole front.
And so to that one, to the relevant criteria, so we're saying it will result in conditions that generate nuisance, however, those anticipated nuisance will be mitigated via that condition.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
So,
And other things that you guys have discussed about like,
Yeah,
or not keeping it full-time.
Yes, yep.
well, we're thinking more remediation and
Right.
not doing a restriction on the number of the time.
So,
due to
well,
the
I mean,
day.
so
So are you
Your
thinking,
conversation.
You're talking
Okay,
about
okay.
the testimony you received
It's
as far
yeah.
as like her efforts to mitigate will be that she's not
Yes.
keeping it there, but
Yes.
regardless.
Oh, okay, I get it, I get it. That's,
Um,
use to
you're
her
get-
plan, not our restrictions.
Yeah.
She has expressed.
The testimony received,
She has expressed that she doesn't want it on the property full-time. She has expressed that she
training
is,
purposes only?
yeah, that is for training purposes only.
Okay.
She is storing the manure right now and is cleaning it to the best of her ability outside of our condition. So I would note those factors as well.
but in lieu of setting like, you can have your horse this many days,
Right.
you're gonna set
Yes.
a
Correct.
We
manure
are gonna set a
removal
mitigation
to
standard.
mitigate any
Yes.
additional
Yes.
If
potential.
it's just
Look at us.
real
being
quick as
ahead.
it doesn't, just in case I don't wanna do it if it makes life hard, but should we state that we would expect her to bring her into compliance with subsection E? Because as of right now, she is absolutely outside the guidelines. She testified she's not cleaning it up twice a week.
Time to get the
I think that's
headlamp?
only in regards to
I mean,
Coral's runs.
yeah, and also you could
Does
argue weather conditions.
Sure, I just more
May
mean
not-
as far as there any public,
No.
public facing benefit to say that we expect her to bring it up, or is it just an assumed, like that's a,
It's presumed.
Okay,
I mean,
perfect.
and I guess I guess there was no testimony about the corral itself.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't necessarily be able to rely on that. I mean, you could note that she's indicated that
Sure.
she cleans it up when it's daylight.
Right.
Um,
But she also stated that she's home for the next 2 months.
Well, but
That is-
she's
and that
only
is-
doing it on the weekends, but again, I think as soon as the horse heads out to where it's actually gonna be, this will be a non-issue, which is,
I
yeah.
agree.
And if we're considering it a pasture, just ask that it be cleaned once per month.
Now, we do need to test, we do need that as a rule, right? We need that we're considering this a dry lot or a pasture, right?
The dry lot, I thought.
Because that has a difference in her,
Yeah, yeah.
because she could, I think she
Obligations.
could get in trouble if we deem this to be a pasture and she doesn't maintain it to pasture standards.
Right.
And I mean, as a personal statement, I don't think there's any chance in keeping this a pasture standards.
No.
Well, and I think that you can address that under number 3 or
Yeah.
maybe number 4. The character of the proposed use, if developed to the plan, would be or would not be in harmony.
I just don't want to set her up for failure where we're
Yeah.
saying this is a pasture and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, pasture says this, here's all your photos of mud, therefore violation of the
Yeah.
CUP. Whereas if it's a dry lot, which it can be, it's big enough to be a compliant dry lot.
I think you just discuss it in 3 as a dry lot and then livestock area.
And she testified to her intent to feed hay, so we don't have any issue there.
Okay, so back to number 2.
So yeah, we jumped to 2.
The proposed use is or is not a public necessity and is not justified by the applicant and deemed to be a benefit to the public. So I will say the proposed use is not a public necessity and is justified by the applicant, or no, I'll say is not.
I would note in the applicant's
She said,
application,
yeah.
it's her own testimony, it is not a public necessity
Yeah.
or benefit.
Yeah,
Yes, so the applicant's own testimony
states
specifies
it's not,
it's not.
not a public benefit, not.
And we don't need to find that it is, that's not a condition that we deny.
The yeses and nos that you ultimately make weigh in your ultimate decision, but don't dictate your decision.
It's a balancing test.
Good deal, okay.
Which obviously I think we can all get there considering how much effort we put into number 1 so far, so.
Sure.
So item number 3, the character of the proposed use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will or will not be in harmony with the area in which it is located.
I would say that it,
I'd argue it will due to the zoning being allowed with the CUP and the historical animal right. Yeah.
and I think too, I guess my thought was that there are other
Animals within the area.
Well,
Sure.
neighboring.
And if she owned the house immediately next door to her, she wouldn't even need this because she'd be in compliance.
Yes, yeah.
But Jennifer already pointed out, the zone assumes
Yeah.
the rights to livestock.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
So item number 4, circled the wrong item. The proposed use will or will not endanger the environment or the public health or safety.
Will not.
I would say will not.
I would say will not, and any concerns about the daycare fencing, that her horse, well, she's gonna secure the panels.
Yeah.
That was already discussed.
Yep.
And the horse won't get near that fence until such time as she has enough panels to extend it.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, we do probably, if we're basing it on her application of that square footage, does she need to immediately extend or quickly extend? Because doesn't the code say that the livestock area is that which they have access to? So
Well,
wouldn't she
you're-
need to basically give that whole area to the horse? I mean, when appropriate?
There's not a specific time frame that's typically set, that would just be the area allowed.
Okay.
So the reduction would be to that area
Temporary.
from the maximum, so as she can, in theory, expand or not.
At will.
She just would be allowed to use that area.
Oh, okay, I get it,
Consistent with her
okay.
CUP.
Okay, it's an allowance, okay.
Yeah.
Because if the horse is always within those panels and they're attached properly, I mean,
Then
if
there
you
is,
have a
yeah.
panel against 3-foot fence, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Did you want to make any comments about the disposal of the manure related to, or in this section too, as far as endangering the environment or the public health, the accumulation of the waste?
So that probably needs to get to just proper disposal under subsection F, right? If it's
And per her own
Conditions that we
testimony,
put on it.
it is not her intent or desire to leave the horse in that space during the really wet, soggy months
Yes.
where it would retain fluids.
the public health in that regard would basically be on-site storage of manure, which we've addressed.
Yeah.
But you want to make it, you will be redundant, so
Sure,
if there's any information provided in justifying this section that you've already repeated or said, you still want to say it as it relates to this specific question.
So stored waste removal on a more frequent basis and applicant statement regarding relocation during wet months.
Sure.
Lengthy stays or relocation.
Already got that part, because you
Thank you,
guys said
okay,
that.
Perfect.
okay, thank you.
Just making sure we're addressing the removal.
All right, item number 5, the proposed use will or will not be in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan.
So you had a slide on it, you had a red is that, in the comprehensive plan, is that a transition to a different type of use?
In the next discussions,
No. There was, one of them had a,
the red.
right, so, because is this area in an area which would allow under the comprehensive plan for similar usage?
So this is neighborhood residential, and then this is neighborhood commercial.
Okay. A neighborhood residential would not have a zoning change anticipated by the comprehensive plan?
No.
To where it would remove that, okay, so animals are contemplated because the zoning's left alone?
Yes, because that would remain in that low-density residential.
Perfect.
Cool.
And also reference from the testimony, just the more free balanced land uses, establish land use patterns that accommodate various land uses in proportion to the needs of the community.
And we do need those spaces that allow people to retain their animals.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I would just say what is inputted in the staff report for compliance with the comprehensive plan justification.
And therefore adopting the
Yes, adopting the staff report, thank you. Adopting the staff report for
Your brain is a
justification
mystery
for
to me, the
number
way you're
5.
just like always.
All right, so, item number 6, pursuant to Idaho Code 67-6512, the conditional use permit may be granted subject to the ability of political subdivisions, including school districts, to provide services for the proposed use. I did not,
None.
I could have missed it. So input from other departments, agencies in the staff report. The engineering of Division of Public Works provided no comments. I didn't read anything about any other applicable political subdivision commenting on this. So in the absence of commentary, I would say there's nothing that suggests that political subdivisions are not able to provide services. So I think
Because there doesn't appear to be
any
beyond what's
commentary,
already
already there, yeah. Yeah. And then number 7, the proposed rezone is or is not in conformance with Idaho Code 67-6537, use of surface and groundwater. I would just say this is not applicable because it doesn't really apply. All right, well, that takes us, that takes us through our relevant criteria and standards. Please, go ahead.
Just a thought on additional conditions. Are we tying it to this one horse specifically for the lifetime of this horse? Are we tying it to this property owner? specifically?
I would say I don't know if the horse is relevant. If you have this
Yeah.
property owner and this horse has something happen and she has another one that she maintains in a similar manner, I don't know if we care.
Yeah, I mean, I would tie it to that,
Registration.
right.
We really don't. I don't know if there's any other, I mean, they even use physical identification and like state
Yeah.
registries, so.
No,
yeah.
Jennifer had just said that you can restrict it to the home, property owner and it does
Yes.
not travel
To the next property owner.
to the next
Definitely.
property
To the
owner, or
property
you
owner.
could tie it to
Right,
the animal
because-
itself and or both, I don't know.
So if we tied it, I mean, I'm inclined to tie it to the property owner, but I'm just exploring options here. If we tied it to the property, but say the owner moved and somebody else came in and they wanted a different CUP,
They could apply for one.
then the CUP for the current, now in my hypothetical, prior owner of the home would basically be null and void,
Yes.
correct?
How about
Okay.
this scenario?
Oh, gosh.
The property owner keeps the property but leases it to a third party, and so they
That's
still
from my
own the
roommate, too.
property.
Well, they would
But then
be,
the tenant, it has the animal.
well, the property owner would still be because I would think because the property owner is still the CUP is in the property owner's name, it would be on the property owner to make sure that they mitigate the nuisances and follow the terms and conditions. Does that sound right? I don't know.
But that's not what that's not what you,
Well, that is-
like,
yes.
your expressed intent, so.
Yeah,
When you
okay.
have those kind of things, that's one of the things, there are,
There are workarounds. I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah, okay. Yep. I see how I see how your mind works. I can't, my mind doesn't work that way,
This
but
particular property owner's intent is highly relevant in the mitigation. It should be tied to her. And the ownership is hard because that's why no one likes lawyers, is because it's like, okay, she moved, she rents it to somebody else. The other person has a horse that they leave there all the time because they don't have a friend in the orchard or out in Tammany, and now we have a problem.
yeah.
So how do you tie it to the owner of the property and the owner of the horse?
Well, if the owner is, if in the
Or do you
hypo,
even try?
well, in the hypothetical, if the owner is leasing the property, then it is no longer their primary residence. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's.
That's a whole different legal definition, though, dangerous.
Okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
I will trust you.
Yeah. And then is it their
Recommendations,
domicile?
Jennifer?
But if we basically want it to be to this person. So, I mean, if she
Yeah.
wants to get really, really creative and the next, like the tenant abuses it, I feel like they're probably gonna fall out of compliance with the other
Yes,
things and
yeah.
and it's gonna be a problem.
And also, I will say, she doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to go to that effort to get,
No.
to weasel the way around. So I would say, I would favor putting a condition that it's tied to this property
This
owner
applicant.
as long as
This
they
applicant.
own.
This applicant, yeah.
Or excuse me, this applicant,
Right.
as long as they own the property.
I don't wanna see her have to apply for another CUP if this horse passes away and
Right.
she wants a similarly situated horse.
yeah, I mean, cause there's always the possibility that he goes to get gilded and,
Sure.
There's an
and
event.
then dies.
Something
Right.
happens. And yeah, and I understand, I mean, I understand her argument of like,
It's her house.
I don't want a time condition on this, cause I can tell you, I don't wanna pay another $400 for a
100%,
CUP. And I fully understand that.
Sure.
So it's a cost, things are expensive.
Yeah,
It would be, it'd be
On the
in
sale.
gross. I have language.
And then does that automatically call out that essentially the deviation from the ordinance?
Yes, because it gets put into the area where we say we approve it. That's typically with conditions, and then we have another section that expressly lists the conditions, and then these do get recorded against the property.
Perfect,
Okay.
okay.
Perfect, okay.
So it'd be to the applicant.
Yeah, because the applicant and the property owners are identified on our written reason statements as well as the.
Yeah,
And that's public record, so.
and there's a horrifying litany of theoreticals that go the other direction.
Oh my gosh, don't give me.
Yeah. She passes away, we have the same horse, her daughter now wants to live in her house with the
Okay,
same horse.
stop,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
stop, you're
But it's
hurting
her
my
estate
brain.
that still owns the property.
You got it,
or-
yeah,
Or
yeah.
she owns the property but puts it in a trust.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh my, oh gosh.
I'm just gonna put a conditional use permit expires. It's illegal.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, that's why we have
Or-
attorneys, so you can argue over that.
Job
so-
security.
She just said, I have language, and I've never heard that phrase, but I loved it.
Yeah, some are four-letter words, some are longer.
Yeah. Mine are mostly the
That's
first,
fair.
not the second.
So, all right, so with that, we have we've deliberated, we have our relevant criteria and standards, so I will take a motion.
I will so move to approve the applicant's conditional use permit with the conditions as listed, described and listed.
Yep. I will second
Did I
that.
get that? Okay.
Yep, I will second that motion. So it's been moved and seconded, all in favor of drafting the conditional reason statement as presented along with the conditions the commission has imposed, say aye? Aye. Perfect, motion carries.
I would just ask, make sure you read this one carefully to make sure that
It says that we covered all the
that we
bases.
covered everything.
We
We don't
don't
have to list the
in,
conditions
but
in
make
the
sure.
motion. We, I mean,
Double check me.
I would think that the conditions are implied at this point.
I have 4 pages.
So
That's what I wrote on here.
with regard that it's 8:05, do we reopen for public testimony relating to the next D as far as the upzone?
No.
So that's not a public hearing. This is
That's
just.
not, okay, that was a question.
Oh, I
Okay.
misspoke,
Yeah.
it's the meeting.
So I actually told some gentlemen that they could
They were
leave.
here, okay, because they were here to talk about
Because
it,
they
and that's
were
what my
here,
thoughts are.
Okay.
I think they missed public testimony, just
Okay.
comments,
Oh.
because that's what I told them to. They are interested in this project because they own property within the
Sure.
area.
Can we reschedule?
Well, so we'll have a public hearing later on. There is lots more. This is just a discussion right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And they'd have the opportunity to be heard next time, just in
Yes.
general, public
Yes.
comments.
Lots
Okay.
of opportunities.
They can blame the
for
chairman
this
of the
one.
commission for misspeaking, so.
I misunderstood that too, so I thought that we would basically need to reopen, that was a
No,
little
no, this
confused
is
by that.
not a public
Okay.
hearing. This is just a discussion. This is you guys reviewing a bunch of work that I have done and I would like input on.
Before she puts any more work into it.
Right. And
Before I keep chugging.
frankly, an overwhelming amount of work based on reviewing it, so it's, wow.
I mean, I try to like condense it as much as possible. 'cause
You
I
can
have,
just
like-
tell how much effort is involved,
I have like 100 pages of stuff. It's great fun. Okay, so,
Well, we started working on this back in
a year ago.
a year ago.
A year
So
ago,
there you
more
go.
than a year ago. Okay, so, we passed a new comprehensive plan, in summer of '24. As part of that, there is an action plan tied to it. As part of that, we assembled a comprehensive plan work plan committee that has been reviewing different items from that action plan and then, putting forth, code amendments and various, actions to try to accomplish some of the items in those action plans. So what is in front of you guys tonight for discussion is a, what we're referring to as ZNC 24-5, which is an upzone that the Planning and Zoning Commission initiated in December of '24. So I've been working on this for a little bit. I did take a break to get my AICP, so sorry about that.
For
So.
shame.
I know, shame, Katie taking a class for 4 months to pass a big test. Okay, so in the packet, I provided you with the original memo that calls out the different sections from the comprehensive plan, action plan that we were trying to accomplish. So when we were doing all of like the mapping and just kind of reviewing of areas of town, it became very apparent to me that there were certain areas in town that were designed and platted prior to our existing zoning code. And so they don't really meet our existing zoning code. And they would probably benefit from an upzone to a slightly higher density zone. So most of what we're looking at is R2 to R3. We are looking at a little bit of R2 to R4 to create buffer zones along our 21st Street and Thane Road corridors. Because generally, when you are looking at zoning of a city, you want to have your high-density commercial areas, right, your core, and then you want to slowly go out into those lower density areas. The way the city is currently is high density commercial and bam, low density, right to it. So part of the idea with the upzone is to create those buffer zones. So increase the amount of properties that go to R4 and increase the amount of properties that go to R3. The R4 properties are mostly because of their closeness to that commercial core. And then a lot of the R3 properties, especially in the below Stewart areas, so in the northern portions of town, are because they are older lots and they are smaller and they don't actually meet the dimensional and square footage standards of the zones that they live in now.
So theoretically, so something happened to the house, they couldn't rebuild what
They
had?
could rebuild a house, but like we frequently get calls and people want to like make a duplex and they don't have the square footage to make a duplex.
Okay.
So this would push them into being able to do that. This would push, so the gentleman who are here who wanted to speak to it, bought a property that has a dilapidated house on it. It's in one of these, it's like down here, it's like right here. It's in a split zoned parcel, which is super fun. But if it goes to R3, they can redevelop that property from one not awesome looking house and kind of a junky yard to a couple of duplexes, right? They can do some small scale, medium density residential, right?
From an on-the-ground perspective, the intended shift from what we have to this is, they're not a massive increase in density. These are still kind of suburban.
Yes,
Okay.
well, and the thing to keep in mind is that this is a built environment, right? This isn't a lot of blank land.
Right.
This is people who already have.
It's basically that, right? And you're looking at all your maps, it seemed like that was basically the only portion of undeveloped property.
Yes,
right?
there's this one, and this one has its own problems with water and sewer, so.
Sure.
That's a
Okay,
separate
okay.
conversation. But most of this is a built environment, so you're more so looking at, could someone add one additional unit, maybe two additional units to their existing property? Or if they are non-conforming currently in some way, shape, or form, and the house burnt down, or maybe it's a duplex, right?
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't meet the standards. You would be able to build back to that standard, right? Because now you're in a higher density, you have a lower lot size requirement. So, we're gonna go through some maps. Okay, so in your packet, I did like a description, right, of kind of the basic areas. When I first started looking at each of these areas and how we were going to describe them legally so that the city surveyor could make legal descriptions for all of them, there's two ways I can do this. One is a legal for every single individual property, and then two is to do it with like boundaries. So that's like center line of street to center line of street between center lines of streets. So it'll end up being a mix. The more we kind of looked at it, there are more areas where it probably makes sense to do a center line to center line, just because of how clean it is, and how well it'll meet up with our comprehensive plan future land use map. There are some areas of specialness though.
Sure.
So, and that's why I'm looking for input from you guys before I continue to move forward with this. Okay. So this is, so the 21st Street interchange is right here. This is East Lewiston. This property is just to the north of Sunset Edition area, right? So like this is where Adcope and the hotel are right here, McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so this goes this way. So all of this is currently R2 with the exception of this little piece, which is in a planned unit development. So we would leave that alone. It has its own special rules. But so all of this would go to R3. A lot of these lots are substandard lots. So there's a lot of like 50 by 142s, which is 7,100 square feet. Minimum lot size in the R2 is 7,500 square feet. There is a section right here that is newer lots, so they are larger and they do meet the current standards because they're from about 15, 20 years ago. But so that's the idea here. Next one is the Sunset Edition area. Again, this was platted in like the 40s and 50s. Again, they are smaller in lot size. A lot of the lots do not meet the R2 standards. So again, we're looking at an R3. In this area, it's hard because of like the swoopy nature of the roads. it would be hard to do R4 in here and make it make sense. So I think it just makes more sense in general that all of it just goes R3 and we don't try to do an additional buffer. And then moving up, this is my area of specialness. So this is farther south. So up here is where like Nespers Drive is. This is a section of storage units. This is Sunset Park. This is, what is this, 30th or 29th? And then it's all kind of like F2 over here. So there is a bunch of weirdness here that I would like to correct because it's weird. But this is also an area where I have questions for you guys. So one of those questions would be this area right here where I've marked it as C6. So this I called out specifically because this would affect a couple of residential properties.
So would they be grandfathered into their use if this
Yes,
shift?
so in the C6 zone, if they are a residential property, that is a use allowed by right if established prior to 2004, which all of these would be. Not all of them are owner occupied. Several of them are owned by the church down here, Emmanuel Baptist on 11th. So it looks like Emmanuel Baptist owns 5 of the properties. And a couple of them look like houses, but I have no idea if they're houses or not, or if they're just being used for church functions. There's 6 single-family dwellings. 2 of them are rentals because you can tell by looking at the property records.
Yeah. Is tenant occupied versus owner occupied relevant in the grandfathering?
It is not.
It is not, okay. So if they're a house, it could be a house.
It's a house.
Yeah, because,
Yep.
their use is grandfathered in.
Even if it sells, yes.
Yes.
Okay, done.
Yep, it just continues on. The one thing, and this is something I tell realtors whenever they call on a property like that, and they're like, oh, it's in this zone, can I use it for both? Is if it changes the use from that single-family dwelling to a
It's done.
commercial use, it stays that commercial use.
Okay,
You
gotcha.
don't get to go back.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, right, that
Okay,
makes sense.
thank you.
Yeah, it reverts.
because we did that downtown, I think.
Yes, yes, we rezoned a property,
Sure.
downtown that was a house, and it was
Yeah.
going to be a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's those, so that's this, that also includes some empty, property that the city owns, that we are using for stormwater detention. What else is over there? I think there's some Rogers Motors stuff in here, because they own like this. And then ditto, there's this piece, which is a couple, parcels that, contain vacated right-of-way right here. And so they're split zones, so part of them is one, part of them is the other, which again, I don't like. We would like to go with parcel lines, but is a parking lot for a portion of Rogers'
Yeah.
greater car lot, I guess. And then,
Subaru
down here is, again, a weird pocket of R2 surrounded by, various C zones. It contains, this one was, I think it contains like a parking lot for, Blue Ribbon. So I would like to rezone it to C6, which is what the rest of this dark red is. And then ditto, there is some storage units and there's a church. And then this is the parking lot for the church. And so the parcel that has most of the building is one zone and their parking lot is a separate zone. So I would like to zone their parking lot the same as them,
Yep, it's a
so it all matches.
Yeah, it's a
And then there's this
salvation.
weird little button right here that is R2. It makes absolutely no sense. It contains a city shack thing. So that would also go C4.
That whole area was briefly waterfront, right? That's what we're looking at.
Good water.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
yes.
Okay, good deal.
Yes, water tank
That's what I thought.
is.
Right in there somewhere.
Like when the reservoir blue, it's
Yeah,
right
it's a-
there.
it's a-
Okay.
Yes, so that was all waterfront property, 100%.
Nice.
It was only like a couple of weeks, but for a while it was stream
A
front.
little.
Oh, yes.
So then this block, basically, these 3 blocks between this block and this block would go to the R4. And then this whole section would go R3.
Or being the buffer, the commercial.
Yes, between the commercial, because that's the higher density residential.
Now,
Again, this is a built environment, there aren't any empty lots in here.
Yeah, so it's ideal for a buffer.
Yes, yeah, because it's not, you're not gonna necessarily see this be like apartment, right?
Yeah.
That's not what's gonna happen.
Yeah, okay.
So the one weird,
Real quick, Katie,
Oh,
jumping
yeah.
back, so is there a reason that storage is C4 instead of C6? Is it
no idea,
just, okay,
honestly,
okay.
I don't know.
Because
why.
C6 would be more of like a commercial, where C4 is like the compatible with neighboring or residential use, right?
Yes,
Typically, okay.
and I mean, and that might be why that is
Okay.
the way that
Just
is.
because of location.
Yeah,
So that's not a proposed change, that's just the way it
no,
is
I would
right
just
now?
leave that, I would just leave that on.
Perfect.
Hold on, I think I put something in the wrong, there it is, no. Okay, so here's a question for y'all. So this is a comprehensive plan future land use map. So this is that same one that we just looked at, right? This is this. There again. It shows, the comprehensive plan land use map shows this whole lower section going to a commercial. So you can see I've outlined those boxes, and then this whole piece that I'm saying should go R3 is commercial per that, so I have my question mark there.
I really hate when commercial just starts to flesh eat
Sure.
residential.
What's currently built into that R3 though? It's all housing, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, R3 is a medium density residential.
Well, I mean, they're currently all housing.
Yeah,
pretty
it's all
much.
houses.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so your commercial, like this is 21st Street, so you have commercial, so there's some here along this 16th, right? Which is why I would like to fit these weird pockets.
Currently, that's entirely built out as
But
commercial.
then it curves
Yeah.
into all
Yes.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
and then it's blank land out here, which is that F2, which we're leaving alone.
Yeah.
The nice thing is some of that weird transition is municipal, because there's the Army
Yes.
National Guard, City of Lewiston.
And that's what a lot of this is right
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's
But
necessarily
not entirely.
bad to leave that, is if for it to go the R3 rather than a commercial.
Yes.
But I would just,
Sure.
that would be something for you guys to kind of think on. And you don't have to make decisions tonight, this is just, I'm providing you, right, it's like, I'm providing you with the information.
Yeah, because you kind of, until you get to that corner past the National Guard base, that's the first time you hit any kind of housing.
Yeah, because then you go around the, because
I
like this
know.
is empty right here,
The
there's like
American
one house.
Pickers former lot,
Yes.
and then, yeah, okay.
Yep, and
But
then
the
you curve
moment
around
it
and then
starts
you're
to
in
encroach and you hit a C,
Mhm.
and it is adjacent to an R, then the next thing you know, then the R is starting to get eyeballed. And I realize not in this
Oh,
current
absolutely, yeah,
comprehensive
yeah.
plan, but it's a flesh-eating bacteria, so.
That's kind of the point of a C4 though, is for that transition to hit.
Yes, because that is like our gentler
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
commercial zone. So then on this one, and ignore the green, there's something going on with our GIS where it's bleeding into each other. Joel and I were looking at this, I'm like, that doesn't
See,
match.
that's what you were just talking to, see, it's taken over.
I told you.
Yeah. You
Th-
put-
this is an
Put red
incorrect.
next to yellow
This
for
is
too
an
long and it
incorrect
becomes green.
And I talked to GIS,
I mean, I love
tomorrow I'll get
green,
that
but-
fixed out. But so this whole area that I've outlined, so like this darker hash mark, that's all that commercial that borders East Main. But this whole area, this darker kind of brownish area, is all that community residential, which is appropriate for a higher density. So that was the section that would go R3. So this was kind of really the I don't know. But I think that, it could go either way. I don't think there's a problem necessarily. There are not houses right here in this section. It is, like you said, municipality sorts of things, police training centers there. Some of our city shop stuff is there, that kind of stuff. So, okay, so those are my east side ones. We're only doing below Nez Perce on this side.
Real quick before you jump, so you mentioned the lots that the church owns and some other things. Do you think there's any significant opposition to that little area transitioning to a commercial zone?
I wouldn't think so. We will be doing outreach, like after we've kind of come up with
Sure.
a pretty solid idea of what we're gonna move forward with.
My brain goes that C6 is way more valuable, so if you're grandfathered existing use and then you transition to C6, those parcels just tripled in value, so.
Yeah, so C6 is nice because it does contain that pre-existing residential use, so single-family dwellings are allowed to continue on for
Definitely, in theory.
eternity, basically. Like I said, hard to tell if the houses or the things that look like houses are being used as houses by the church. So,
But
but either way, like,
hard to prove, so
Okay.
we'll figure it out, okay, cool.
either way, doesn't matter, because they would be allowed to continue on. Okay, so then looking on the west side, again, I have a section that, visually makes sense to go from R2 to C6. So this is a bunch of jog in, right? This is the Salvation Army, in that old church building. Again, I went through and was specific to, call out who you would be affecting if you went forward with this. This is not necessarily what you have to do, you could go with R4. So there are two that are Salvation Army, one that is apartments, that's like right here. And then there is a series of single-family dwellings, and then there's this little weird dude right here that has a, R2, right? Look at that little guy. So it's a single house, but in a separate, it has its own zoning separate from the C6. But so all of that potentially, the idea would be to go C6, to make a clean line, and then you'll see, we'll move into the R4 and R3.
Do we have, is there an opt-out, will we end up with a few of those little spot zones for a while if people opt out, or is there?
We haven't fully fleshed that out. When we upzoned in the orchards, we did provide that opt-out. I feel like if we got too many people wanting to opt out, we would probably instead move away from C6 and we would probably push forward with an R4.
Because one of our goals is to avoid spot zoning, right? So we kind of want to minimize that, okay.
Yeah, I want little weird ones like this to go away.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
But so I don't know that we would abandon it completely. I think we would just go a different direction and go R4. Yep.
Is the Salvation Army still being used as a residential? That little spot, is that, that one seems weird just because if that were a blank lot, it would obviously be commercial.
Yeah, I would say it's considered a mixed use. I don't believe that they have actual dormitories in there. My understanding is they have like a chapel, they have a food kitchen. They provide like laundry services, stuff like that.
And would that be disallowed under a commercial zone? I'm just curious, that's the only one in your map that kind of didn't make any sense,
You know,
is
I
that
didn't
Salvation
look
Army
up
chunk.
their specific like use criteria and compare, but I can make myself a note to do that for when this comes back to you
Going
guys.
through all the maps, that was the only one that seemed odd, just because it's literally bordering that primary traverse at 21st.
Okay, so then the red stuff we just saw. Some of my maps look different because I've been working on this for so long that our mapping system has actually changed. There you go. So this part right here is what you just looked at, where the discussion is to potentially go C6. So then this is the next block, basically, to go R4.
Okay.
So then you can see this blue color, that is existing R3. That's why you're not gonna see as much R3 called out on the west side, because we do have more pockets of R3, and then we run into our normal hill zones, and I ain't touching those.
Thank you.
That group put way too much work into that, no thank you. Okay, so then you would have 2 blocks of R3, and you would basically be joining the R3 down here with the R3 up here. But this little section right here would go C6.
Those are built out, that's commercial right now, isn't it? It's not zoned, but by use.
So the C6, this little section right here that I've called out is not, it's currently zoned R3. It has received like conditional use permits for its uses, so that's where Riverside Recovery is. And-
That's what I should have asked,
And there's
because
still
that's
a
being
residential
used
house
for
there too,
business.
yeah.
Yes, and there's 3 residential houses.
And then across the street from it up would be, isn't that the funeral home right in there?
Funeral
In
home.
the blue, yeah, so across from the C6 that you've identified, the funeral home was right up in there too.
It's right here.
Yeah,
So it would go
So it would be
R3.
R3.
So it would
Okay.
just go to
okay.
R3. Yeah, so in that tiny little pocket of C6, this bad boy right here, you have early childhood development. You have 2 buildings that are under Riverside Recovery, both of them operating under CUPs, and then you have 3 single-family dwellings. But again, C6 allows that use to continue on, right? So then that kind of just little corridor becomes this big blue thing, right?
Nice little buffer.
Yeah. And so that's kind of it for that side. That side's kind of easier, right? And so again, you can see, the future land use map calls out this bright pink color as, I don't remember what it's called, one of the commercial things. And then again, you have kind of the brownish color and then the bright yellow kind of in between, right? So those are both residential designations. I think one's community residential and neighborhood residential. But so that would be kind of just how, this side was easier. Because there's less of it that you ultimately need to change because there already is that R3 kind of hanging out, right? So, so that's mostly what I wanted to present tonight. And then I don't feel like we have to get into a real heavy discussion about this right now. We're tired, it's time to go home. But if this is the direction that you guys would like me to go, we will have another, I will have this like on another workshop so that we can look at the upper part. I'm probably going to do them in 2 different sections just because there are so many properties and the outreach to do all at one time would like blow my head off. So we'd probably do like a downtown and then an orchards, right? Yeah, so that's what I have for you guys. Are there any questions, any concerns, am I moving in the right direction? Do you hate it? You want me to start all the way over?
It looks great. I think it looks good.
And I am all for anything that actually still has the R, like if it's already R.
Yes.
Yes.
Just as a homeowner, at the moment I see a C, I'm gonna lose my crap, you know?
Yeah,
if it's
and
in my
honestly,
space.
like if it's not if we start that outreach process and we're receiving too much kickback, I mean, there's not that many properties that would be affected by the C. But if that got a really poor reception, I think we would just push it to R4. Honestly, I think that would be the direction we would go. That would still, it wouldn't match up as maybe cleanly as going the commercial for the future land use plan section of it, but I think it would be an improvement in creating those buffer zones, providing additional opportunities for those property owners to, you know, add units, redevelop if they needed to, whatever it is.
Yeah, because as these smaller single individual family homes have commercial encroach on them, we are literally losing homes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it right now. I think it's on Bryden, we're starting to lose houses along the way. And as long as there's an R in there, from even just the most basic of levels, I just think that it might save a home that somebody, I never am gonna forgive us as a commission for letting LCCU take that house down, ever, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, the general goal with doing the upzone is to create more opportunities for housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by
That's
increasing the
yep.
density,
Yep.
that creates more opportunities by, you know, moving them from where you're not conforming because your lot isn't big enough to be able to, oh, now I can do another unit.
Yeah.
Like, that's the point.
Yeah.
It allows an old, very like kind of beat up single family turning into a much nicer, more
Easy.
appropriate duplex. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
which is
I
all.
am, yeah, but I am an absolute whore for the vintage architecturally historical homes,
100%.
which is why I live in Normal Hill,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a
Okay.
lot in those zones that have fallen on their own and they're a
Yeah.
lost cause.
Yeah, okay, Katie, thank you for all that. That
So
looks
I will
like
keep
it's-
chugging along, and then it'll keep coming back to you guys, prior to us going to public hearings.
Okay, cool.
Well, that takes care of our active agenda, so moving right along, staff commission communications.
All right, so just 2 things. One is, we need a new volunteer for the comp plan, work plan committee, because Mo is no longer able to attend because of her work schedule. So please have some thoughts in that direction, and then email Joel if you're interested. And then B, our elevator is broken. We had a workaround for tonight, but we will be moving our February and our March meetings to City Hall in the West Conference Room. So that's on the back side of City Hall, so you park in that rear parking lot. You'll come around on the west side, there's a ramp and there's the glass door. We'll have that sucker propped open so you can enter. Dawn and I will be in there. It's where, you know, City Council has some work sessions sometimes. The URA meets there, DAC meets there. So we'll be utilizing that space until the elevator at the Bell Building is working again. And then is there anybody who's unable to attend, was it February 11th, I think is our next meeting? Yeah, February 11th. We do have a public hearing scheduled for the wireless communication facilities.
And you gotta approve your CUP.
And you have to.
And we have to
Which
approve
we
it.
have to read carefully before.
Yes, right. I will do it when I'm more awake.
Yeah, I'm punchy now, absolutely.
I plan on being there.
I plan to be there.
I'm good.
All right, well, that takes us out of staff commission communication. So number 5, adjournment. I will make a motion to adjourn. It's been
second.
seconded. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.